Some they call it functional alcoholism, but if you know anything about Ben, he's got vision with precision, microphones and a tinkle of derision. You're about to hear what beer can be. It's time for Barley and Me.
Welcome to Barley and Me. I'm your host, Ben Rice. This is episode 153, I hope. We're here today in Folsom, California at Red Bus Brewing. With us today, it's Erik Schmidt from Red Bus Brewing.
Hi there.
And our special guest today, comedian and the love of everyone's life, Shahera Hyatt.
Hey, Ben.
How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
You may remember her from a complete clusterfuck of an episode at Tilted Mash during a comedy show where everybody on the show appeared at some point in time.
That was the most fun podcast I've ever done. We were all drunk.
Yeah, it was so long. Oh, my God. And so long ago, because that was early in those days. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for actually coming out here and having a solo episode where we focus on you.
Hey.
Now that I've said that, Erik, how's business here at Red Bus?
Oh, business is good. When the smoke clears up and it's not 110 degrees outside, it's pretty darn good. But no, we're doing all right.
Yeah, it's been a rough time, I would assume, for you. It's a lot of adapting the last 2 years. Is that true?
Yeah, I would say that's true. I think I'm not alone in Sacramento or breweries across the country and having to switch to packaged products almost exclusively last year, which for a brewery that's business model is based on selling it over the counter was a very labor intensive endeavor for us. But our numbers were good. I mean, we were flat year over year revenue wise, which was great. The cost just went up quite a bit because everything was in a can.
Yeah.
But it's good. I mean, we survived.
You guys have been adapting pretty much from day one here at Red Bus. Because you started as kind of an offshoot. It's like, hey, we have a homebrew shop. And by the way, drink some beers.
Yeah. I mean, this was always something I had in back of my mind. And the homebrew shop was a way to ease into it, I guess. It wasn't necessarily part of the plan, but looking back on it, that's kind of the way it worked out. And for a while, it actually resided in here with the brewery, which was fun, but challenging at the same time, too. It's hard to host those two environments under one roof. Yeah,
that's running two businesses at once, pretty much. They weren't off hours, like switched off to one. You had to kind of be doing both at the same time. Yeah,
and so we would have issues with products and keeping them separated in the back, nuances between the two businesses back there. Where do these wine bottles go? Where does the grain go? It was a challenge, too, when we have events, and it was really busy in here. For example, we had music going, and you'd have to walk through the tap room to get to the homebrew shop desk. And it's good that it's moved. So we've moved it. It's across the street now in its own little environment, and kind of taken that space and made an event space here at the brewery, which is great.
Yeah. Now, do you still own the homebrew shop?
I do.
Oh, okay. Are you still running it, or do you have people that are doing that for you?
I haven't really run it in years. So
That's what I thought.
I have Ray Rodriguez is my manager for the two stores, West Sacramento and Folsom. We closed the Roseville one in June of last year.
Oof. I'm sorry.
Homebrew business is tough.
So what is the homebrew business? So do people that do homebrews, you sell their beer?
Right.
Oh,
It's called the
cool.
Brewmeister. It's
Okay.
it's the longest running homebrew shop. I don't know, hot shops in Sacramento, really, I think.
I love that.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a very fun business.
Yeah. Do you still do demonstrations on like how to make beer in there, or do you just go come across the street to the brewery?
We do
show
the
you how to make
classes
beer?
here. We do them on Saturday mornings out in the brewery. Half the people that come to those classes, their dream is to do something like this. So it's fun to do it in a industrial brewery environment. And
Shows
that
them
way they
what's
can drink
possible.
beers while they're taking the class.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I really like the way that you did everything here. I feel like when people are like, what brewery's worth going to? I'm like, well, Red Bus has a really cool vibe. They've got a lot of low ABV beers, and they still keep up with like what's trendy. It's just a really cool place to be, and it's like, this is how you can make it simple and still really good. I'm sure it's not simple on like every front. Obviously, brewing's still brewing, business is still business, but there's just like a coziness to it.
Thank you. I very much appreciate that. I mean, you set out to do something like this, you never really know how it's going to be perceived. I combined a few passions of mine here. Mm-hmm. I'm in my 50s now. I'm not a young guy anymore. A lot of these guys starting breweries are a lot younger than I am. And so I'm really, the plan was to make it big enough to help support my family and be able to live on, yet small enough that if the shit hit the fan, that my wife and I could run it.
Yeah.
And it's grown a little bigger than that, but it gets referred to as a clubhouse, community meeting space. The Volkswagen vibe has a lot to do with that, I think. It's I'm a big car guy. I love cars, especially German cars. But the Volkswagens have kind of this, the people's car, right? And it kind of fits. And as far as the beer styles go, I mean, coming from the home brewing background, right? Maybe there's some home brewers that just try and make the same beer all the time, but most of them are always trying different styles. And that was how I was. And it's cool when somebody comes in and orders the English mild and talks about how great the English mild is. I mean, nobody makes those anymore.
Right.
And it's not just the other brewers that are picking up. That's number one.
Yeah.
Which we have here to drink.
You do have that.
Because-
That's number one.
When
Delicious.
I see one on, I'm like, I know how much goes into making a good one. I know what makes a good one, and I know that these don't sell. So I'm like, give me that English mild. Also, it's a great end of the night. I like to call them sober up beers, even though that's not what they're doing.
It's
Sober
like a
beers,
cup
I
of
love
coffee.
that concept. Yeah, I have to say too, right off the bat, after already trying a couple of the different beers here, it's so clear there is so much creativity, but it's still very drinkable. It's not creative in a way that you're like, oh, that's kind of painfully outside of my comfort zone. So that's kind of fun to me, which I do have fun with sometimes, but these are creative, but really good.
Well, thank you. I mean, there's a lot of different stuff going on nowadays, right? I mean, it started with the hazy IPAs and the barrel-aged sours, and now there's just a ton of beers that have fruit in them and slushy machines and all this other stuff, and that's all really cool. I really don't have any issue with it. It's just not what we are. Mm-hmm. I've really tried to keep us focused on classic styles and keeping those alive. The Helles, traditional fest beers, porters, stouts. Doesn't mean we won't make a big, 15% stout, pastry stout or something like that, but not very often. I mean, it's just not really our deal.
Mm-hmm.
Special occasion.
Yeah, I mean, we do it because our customers ask for it, but not that many. There's a lot of other local breweries that do that, and they're filling a market too.
Yeah,
it's just
absolutely.
everybody's got to have their own little channel.
I imagine too that doing what you're most passionate about is also the key to preventing burnout, or to kind of creating sustainability, that if it's what you love and doesn't feel like it's necessarily, hyper responsive to a trend that is not really your vibe, it seems like that just makes most sense as a business model, and it's kind of a lifestyle. Yeah.
Well, imagine walking into your own brewery and not wanting to drink any of the beers on the board. I mean, it can't be all about what you like.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
Right.
it's kind of a blend of the two. I mean, the perfect example is when I opened, it was like, we are not going to do hazy IPA.
Yeah. Everybody says that coming in.
Sure. It's an easy thing to say. And then after about 10 days of every other person wanting one, it's like, you know what? You got to do it.
Yeah.
So it is this kind of nuance between holding to your principles and then also making sure that you're making what your customer base wants.
I'm definitely a beer drinker, but not terribly knowledgeably so. But I've only tried hazy IPAs for the first time recently, and from some friends in Denver, and I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of good. But yeah, I'm interested to hear just the impression of them as sort of
They used to be a divisive thing.
right.
Because the old heads, we wanted a strong hop and a malt backbone. And no, we're just going to give you juice and sweetness. And you're like, that's not what these are. We want pine and resin and a little bit of a throat tear. No, this is soft, pillowy mouth
Heartburn. We want heartburn.
Yeah, come on.
I always have heartburn.
Yeah, don't need any help. And, with a hazy, if it was made wrong, you would still get the heartburn from
Right.
the sheer burn of the hop burn involved would still be there, but it was a different burn that wasn't fun. But I've come around to the fact that I'm there are really good hazies out there. I just, I'll always order something else first.
Likewise. They
I
are
guess
what they are.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
what you were saying too. Just kind of respecting that different people fill different niches in the market, and you don't necessarily have to do. You have to be flexible, but not. Yeah.
But
You
also,
can't give away your soul.
Yeah.
But also when the entire crowd of people that comes, it's makes it very clear that if you want to keep these doors open, you need a hazy on at all times. You've got to make sure that you can make the other beers. That beer pays for all the stuff that you're I'm really happy about.
Right. And then probably the challenge too is then to make a hazy that does speak to you, or to see okay, how can I be creative in a way that still like satisfies me. And it seems like probably coming from like a homebrew background, you must have that interest in kind of experimentation and
Oh yeah. We've done them with coconut. We've done them. I mean, all the breweries have done them with various things. The hardest part about them really is the amount of hops and other stuff you put in there. It really limits your yield. I mean, first of all, it's expensive, all the stuff you put in, and then you get less out. And so it's very painful to watch all the stuff that goes in and then watch how little that comes out of the vessel. And so that part's not fun.
Yeah.
But people love our Jetronic. I mean, that's I think they're number two there. And we've made that beer more than any other beer here. That's kind of our flagship.
Yep.
It wouldn't be the one I picked to be the flagship, but it is. And that's fine. It's good. We stand by it.
What would be the one you'd pick as a flagship?
Oh, if I could make more of them, it'd be a lager of some sort. It'd be a nice Helles lager or even a West Coast IPA. I'd be all right. We make our socket set, which is really, it's made with the same hops as the Jetronic, just at different times, different yeast, a little different malt bill. But people always ask us, what do you specialize in? And our specialty is that we don't have one. We try and have our board be as broad as possible.
Yeah. And I do love that one of the times I came in here, I think half your beers were under 5%. And that's not a rarity for you guys. It's just like kind of how it is.
Yeah. I can't even really tell you why. I think that kind of goes back
when it's
to
cold out, you get your bitters, your milds, your Irish stouts, and then you want a light lager for somebody who was looking for that. And then what was the? I was like a porter. There's a style. I'm thinking of Schwarzbier, also, which I'll get into that too. But yeah, there's like it was like just like this is exactly what I wanted right now.
I feel like that's popular right now too, having some like low ABV options. Or I've seen that popping up so much more, even post pandemic, and it just kind of interested me. And I don't know if that's because people are a little bit burned out, or you want to be able to try more and like different things, so you want something a little bit maybe less boozy, so you can have more variety. I'm such a variety girl, so I love having a flight of something. So yeah, if it is a little bit less boozy, that kind of speaks to me.
I think for us, a lot of it has to do with our clientele. I mean, in Folsom here, the demographics, I say older, but a little more established.
Yeah.
We get a lot of parents in here. Yeah. We don't get a lot of we do, but it's not an overwhelming amount of 20 somethings.
Ready to rage.
It's more mid 30s, 40s, 50s. Yeah. And they tend to gravitate towards those lower ABV beers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Plus, you're walking distance from Sam Horn's, where people. That's where I learned to love beer.
Yeah, you go down there and get all the big ABV beers.
But like back in the day, that's where you learned that's what beer could be. All those different styles were always around.
He was one of the first to do the rotating taps. Funny story about Sam Horn's is, it opened. I had the brewmeisters, and my wife met Dylan. Mm-hmm. Had a commerce meeting, and started talking to him, and she said, my husband owns the brewmeister. And he goes, is your husband Kevin Pratt? I don't know if you know Kevin, but Kevin used to work for me there. And she's like, no, my husband's Erik. And then she told me what he was doing, and then I went down there and met with him, and he told me about this rotating tap concept. I don't know how long this ago was. This is a long time ago.
Yeah, I think they're 12 years old now.
Yeah, so 12 years ago, right? Yeah. When every bar you went into, there was Lagunitas, Sierra Nevada, Sam Adams, and you went to bars. I thought people went to bars because they knew what they would get there.
Yeah.
And so he was telling me, I'm going to have these 16 taps, and the beers are going to change all the time. And I just tapped him on the shoulder, and I said, hey, good luck with that.
Good luck with that. Yeah.
He's done great, and now they all do it.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to keep one beer. I'm like, like Coors? Like, no, Allagash White.
Yeah, or Trumer Pills.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And it's awesome. He started it, at least here, he kind of started that trend, which is cool.
Yeah. And I think for me too, as a drinker, one of the things that I'm interested in is, I'm going to say like a customer, but I said a drinker instead. But
we know what you meant.
You're a customer at a bar or a brewery, so yeah.
It means the same thing.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in kind of like trusting the venue to a certain extent. There's places that I like, and so I think with that idea of rotating, where like I kind of trust. There's a local spot pretty close to where I live called Pangea, and I just know that they do a good job and that they'll kind of help lead me down the right direction. And so I don't mind that there's like a million different beers that switch out. I get to try something new.
Yeah, and you're willing to take a recommendation from the people that work there because you trust them too, right? Yeah. And I think we've established that too, which is great. We do an extra special bitter, our Planet Caravan, which when our original brewer, Nick Stevens, suggested we do it, I'm like, oh man, I love that beer, but nobody's going to buy it, man. And we did it, and it's probably our second or third bestseller that we've ever made because, other than Monk Cellar and a few other places, nobody
has one continually.
No, like I know Andrew made one at Flatland not too long ago, and I had it. It was terrific.
It was good.
Andy's, Crooked Bridge is great, but who else is doing it? I mean,
Yeah, I have a coworker that would always be like, who's got an ESP? And my office is in Folsom. I'm like, just go to Red Bus, dude. They have one. It's killer. It's right there. It's like a mile away. Just go get it. And I still to this day, I'm not sure he's ever come in. But I'm like, it's right there. And it's so good. The ESP, I was thinking of your fest beers that you were doing earlier, by the way. I remember what I was talking about. Meritson's Fest beers.
Yep.
I was going to say, one thing that really interests me, I started doing wine tasting recently. I got hired as a comedian to host virtual wine tastings, which has been really fun, really silly. And so I've been really trying to learn a lot about wine. And it's cool to hear you guys talk about some of the flavor profiles with beers, because that's one of the things that's really interesting to me about wine. And I think I come to an interest in wine through food. I'm really interested in flavor and food and, and I think that it's expanded my palate to have this attentiveness to like how drinks taste. So yeah, I'm kind of curious also with beers. What are some that you were saying like with IPA, it's like pine and this. And so yeah, what are some of the common terms that you hear like kind of like when you're tasting beers, or what should I be looking for as a consumer?
On the malt side, it's bready,
Nutty, roasty,
caramel, coffee.
Yeah. Which you're getting a lot of that in this, most likely.
English
a lot
mild.
of those flavors.
Is fantastic.
Yeah, the English mild, you might get a tiny bit of chocolate. Shouldn't be a ton of roast, some caramel. And then, on the hop side, boy, these days.
Juicy, citrus, pine, resin, dank is the one everybody fucking loves.
Right. So,
what trendy words? Dank seems like a trendy. Like that seems like a of the moment kind of a word. Yeah.
Juicy and dank.
Yeah. Stone fruit. Which one?
Fruit.
Just stone fruit.
Just
any fruit with a stone in it.
Right.
We don't want to get too specific.
An apricot. Yeah. Anyway.
No. We don't want to talk about that. Just stone fruit. Move on. Yeah, I remember I was just more Folsom memories. I was at Ciro's Pizza. I'm just going to keep naming all the businesses that are around here.
Okay.
And they had like, a little flyer out for the beers they had. And they had one for Coors. It's like, contains indistinguishable fruit flavor. I was like, you know what? Yeah, it is kind of like just a bunch of muddled fruits that don't make any sense. And you can't be like, I think it's mango. You can't even say. You're not even sure.
That's really funny.
I'm like, that's accurate. And I'm mad about it, honestly. Because you would never say, Coors, it's fruity. And then you're like, you see it. And you're like, yeah, it is fruity in that it's a bunch of fruits blended up that you can't pick out of a lineup.
It's so much that you can't distinguish any of them.
You're like, yeah, I get the general feeling of that. Okay.
Is there a beer equivalent for a sommelier, or a sommelier? Do they know beer?
Of which John right here is a level 2.
A Cicero?
Yes.
A Cicerone.
Cicerone. Okay, because it's like that remedy of Chicago.
Yeah.
So actually we did, Monday night, we did a olive and beer tasting pairing.
Oh, cool.
So we teamed up with More Than Olives, I think it is, down on Sutter Street. They put together some basic food dishes and brought them up. And John paired the beers with them. And man, we had like 30 people.
Fun.
And they loved it. Everybody wants to do it again. So there's definitely a food and beer pairing thing that you can do very similar to wine. And probably even beer has such a wider range
than wine.
That your ability to pair different foods is much greater, I think.
Now, did you call it a tapenade?
We did not call it that. But maybe next time. I'll talk to my wife.
Tapenade.
That is clever. If you need the puns, honestly.
I was like, when can I butt in and say this? Because I thought of it immediately, and I was like, you got to say it. But like, be polite about it.
Tapenade. I really
Sorry
like
to hijack your marketing.
No, hey,
Just
hijacking
is like, we got it.
Is encouraged.
God, I'm the worst.
Well, I'm going to tell John that. That's good.
Oh, it's recorded. So if you need to remember it back.
Well, that just means you have some sort of rights to it because it's recorded.
I never make any claims to anything. I'm just like, here's an idea.
He's an open source kind of guy.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm a terrible brewer. I've tried home brewing. I'm like, this isn't a thing that I'm good at. Take it. I'm not doing anything with it.
You're a drinker and a lover of beer.
Just like when I was like, I'm going to be a musician. And then I'm like, oh, I can't actually compose a song or play an instrument. And my voice is, before it was good, but it wasn't, all state, no big deal. Choir. But I'm like, creating it is really not for me. I'm just an appreciator. So like every time, like, I love food. I'm like, not really a great cook. I'm like, maybe I just appreciate things and like promote them. That's kind of how I ended up here doing this, I guess.
It's a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
This has got to keep you busy, and it's cool because you're out meeting people and trying different beers all the time and doing the comedy thing. And
Yeah.
Making friends.
It's great. It's the best thing I've ever done up until 2020.
Yeah. I think a lot of people could say that.
It was. I was like, yeah, this is the best decision I've ever made. And then I bought a house. I'm like, that was probably a better decision, honestly, than this. But honestly, I should stop doing this because it is not a moneymaker.
Yeah.
Probably being with Becky Lynn, I'm going to throw up there also as the top
Yeah, right. I'm just look.
decision
Just,
making.
yeah, right. But that's long term. Like the long term decisions, they've been topped recently. But this was pretty much as far as a pursuit of passion, the best thing I've done.
I love it.
That's good.
Beer
That's
goes
good.
well with comedy too. That's a good pairing.
Yeah.
I feel like a liar. I'm doing a class on how to properly run a successful comedy show because I have 2 shows now that are over 4 years old. And if you want to go I think I'm counting COVID time as not doing it. So I think one's 5 and one's 4.
Okay, I'm counting COVID times in the shows that I produce, the Moving Van Show, hashtag.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been 5 years, but we're counting the pandemic year.
Right.
And honestly, that's gotten us some attention.
Right. Yeah. And I'm just like putting on this class about how to do that. And I'm like, well, I mean, to be fair, I have this podcast and, people that are that have beer and like we have a space for comedy are like, hey, do you want to do comedy at our beer space? So it's kind of a cheat.
Sure. But
I still like have a focus on like, I could take this show to a place that doesn't do beer and I could still make it successful.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, I have a cheat code to get in, but like everybody has a cheat code to get in somewhere. Everybody, like surely you have a network that you can, like, for lack of a better word, exploit or leverage, as I like to say.
Leverage sounds a little bit better.
Leverage sounds a lot better. It's the word I usually use, and for right now, I was like, what the word you usually use is exploit, right? It's like, no, that's not.
I think that there's a
not
deeper
it.
lesson in that too that makes sense, which is just kind of like building relationships with local businesses. And I think too, so many comedians are producers. It's like, what you want most of all as a comedian is stage time, and you want money. That's important too. But, finding places to create a venue where you can produce a show and have your stage time is like unbeatable next level. And that just gets you the relationships that you need, in your comedy community to like move stuff forward as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, anybody can do that. You just have to have like a hook, a reason.
Yeah. And so I'm putting on the class about like how to leverage everything and also like know that, I have good friends in the beer community that like, let's do a show here. I'm like, I can't do it. Your room's not, it will be bad. And I don't want it to be bad. I want it to be good. And I know I can't make yours good.
Yeah. That's a good lesson too. I mean, being real about a as a producer,
and that's like,
just like know when it's not going to work.
Yeah. Just like tell them this, I can't do it. It's like, and I've always been right. And I'm like, I'm going to give you the same lineup I give anybody else. I'm going to use the same equipment I would give anybody else. And it's going to be bad because it's not designed for it.
Right.
And you don't want a shit show. I mean, quality over quantity.
Yeah,
too.
always quality. Yeah. Like that's the easiest thing to sell is quality, and the hardest thing to sell is hype.
Yeah,
it
true.
doesn't last. Like I'm like, and one of the things like everybody can have one good show. You can book a show, promote the hell out of it, and they'll be packed. Are they coming back? Are they telling their friends? You can do a second show, probably pretty easy. Third show, how'd that go? That's where you know where you're at.
This is why you have to create and celebrate your milestones.
I will never do it.
You must.
I'm not going to do it.
Because you said hype is hard to last. You have to be celebrating throughout. Like
Take
let
advantage
people
of those
in on the
milestones.
party.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
Nope.
No. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a hard no.
One thing I don't do is.
Teacher over here can't take a lesson.
Yeah, right. I'm like, well, there's things I'm bad at. Promotion. I'm bad at promotion. Flyer making. Bad at flyer making. Anything visual design. Not my strong suit. And taking credit for things I don't know.
Yeah, you're not a big tooting your own horn kind of guy.
Like I promote this podcast once. Like people, I've made people aware that it exists. That's it. Next episode, 2 weeks. I'll do it again.
Right.
I'm just like I don't want to. There's people who's like we have a show and it's like every day, 3 times a day. Here's a show. Hey, I have a podcast. If you listen to the new podcast, here's another way. Do you want to go back and listen to the old podcast? I'm going to promote. Like I don't want to do any of that.
Well, that's why I'm trying to get Ben to take a picture with me.
I might
in front of the Red Bus. As promotion, so if you don't see that, either he cut this out of the podcast,
or we never did the picture.
or we never did the picture.
It's been documented.
So audience, hold him accountable.
Yeah, please do. And speaking of, I think we have beat around the bush. The reason I paired you with Red Bus, Shahera, is you have the Moving Van Show, as you mentioned, Red Bus. is, of course, a minibus.
Yes.
So
pretty
tell
much
me
the
about
same
this
thing.
moving van show.
Okay, I've been coveting these buses. I was thinking about how good they would be for the Movie Man show. So what it is, it's an outdoor monthly pop-up stand-up comedy show. So we
Okay.
rotate locations, and historically we've purchased like a moving van, like a U-Haul budget type of van.
Okay.
But now I have a GMC Savannah Starcraft 1997. It's a conversion van.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Yeah. And so now Home Van is the van so that we don't have to pay $50 a month just to rent a van as a spectacle for our comedy show. But also we're popping up in just different locations where we may or may not need a van. So now, I mean, it's still pop-up outdoor stand-up comedy, but we're just a little bit flexible.
So would you do
with
the
it.
show like out of the back of the van, like in it?
So we wouldn't perform in the van, but we would have the van behind us, and then we have a brick shower curtain that we tape up as the backdrop on the van.
Sounds really fancy.
Yeah, it's really fancy. The whole idea is kind of, just keeping it janky. It's like, it's supposed to be a little bit low production,
Yeah.
but just as like a fun and accessible way to enjoy comedy. It's very unstuffy. It's historically been people sitting on blankets in a park or in a parking lot with light, and just enjoying, some good local stand-up comedy.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's like it's a bring your beer, bring your dog kind of a situation. So it's very friendly, and I think similar to you in starting a business, I think what interests me in producing is like creating something for your community where you can create these relationships and have something fun for people that vibe with the same kind of stuff that you vibe with.
Yeah. So where do you do them at? I mean, give me an
All
example.
over Sacramento. So if
You
you've been
just
to like
announce you're going to be somewhere.
Yeah.
we put it on social media, we flyer around town, and just build up a bit of a fan base. So we post around the location that we'll be popping up. So we've done like Land Park, Southside Park, but all in like the
Like
Sacramento,
random
mostly.
parking lots.
But mostly
Yes.
public areas, right? You're
Yeah,
not doing
public
it
areas.
businesses. You're just,
Right.
okay.
Yeah, sometimes we'll partner with business, especially if we need an indoor for maybe, hey, smokes outside or
Yeah.
who knows what's going on. So sometimes we've gotten to partner with somebody so we can.
Oh, that's really neat.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's a super fun show. I think I've done it once or twice. I did a parking lot for sure.
Yeah, we've
where I
mostly
think
done parking lots
I think an
historically.
accident happened. Something happened where it's like, oh boy, that was close. But I've gone to a bunch of them because they're
Yeah.
super fun. Like right by the Capitol is a pretty common spot that you
Yeah,
guys do
there's
for a
Capitol
while.
Amphitheater. Yeah, we've got some new venues we're excited to check out for this season. We've really upped our game post-pandemic. I think that we've realized, just the preciousness of having something. So we've been treating our audiences better by finding better locations than a parking lot. So in 2021, we've been mostly in parks or places with like bathroom access, which for us
Yeah.
is huge production. We got lights for the first time.
Yeah.
So now we can
After
see our
a
comedian,
certain
like our
time.
headliner. Yeah.
Yeah, because like in the daytime, like it starts at what, 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock?
Yeah, it starts about usually 8 o'clock. Yeah.
And it's like still bright out, but like by 9:15, you got a comic up there that you can't even see
hey.
anymore.
Is
have
he
the-
really there or is this a recording?
Yeah.
Yeah, we now have the Becky Lynn Memorial Spotlight, which I've called it for the last headliner that didn't get a spotlight.
I'm not going to say anything, but yeah, you couldn't see her.
She still had one of the best sets I've ever seen. So commitment to
that's-
her professionalism, not our production.
That's really my fault. I should have remembered that you guys had lighting issues. I just bought new lights that like don't need an outlet. You just charge them up and you can just turn them on, and they're good for
yep.
like 5 hours. I'm like, I knew this was a problem with this show. I should have just brought at least one
right. It's
as a spotlight to use, but I didn't. I'm a selfish, greedy person.
Well, you
I'm
never know.
sorry.
You might have needed them the next day and they would have been charged.
Exactly.
Right?
True, but it charged really quick too. But then I did save a show later, so that was important.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yes. Ben is a savior of local comedy shows.
I always have something in my car. I'm like, what do you need? Like, because you had a 15-watt amp on the ground, and your biggest audience you've had in ages,
Maybe ever.
Yeah, and it was just like playing. It was dead within like 20 feet. You just couldn't hear anything.
Right.
And I'm like, well, I mean, I was like going back to like, what are you plugging in? How are you powering this? Oh, you have an extension cord. Great. So I just grabbed your co-host Melissa, and I was like, hey, can you give me a ride to my house? And I just went and grabbed my speaker and my stand. And I was like, boom, now you have good sound.
Instant amplification.
A true homie move. And honestly, we were outdoors on Broadway in Sacramento too,
Yeah.
which is just like
It's loud all the time.
Cars
constantly
and
loud,
freeway
yeah.
noise.
Yeah,
you got
we
it
always
all.
kind of bill it as trying to keep comedians on their toes. We're throwing a little wrench in the set. Who knows what could happen in this live environment, which now post pandemic or kind of current pandemic is kind of more the norm to have outdoor comedy shows.
Yeah.
So now we all get to have the spontaneity of whatever that brings.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's cool. I mean, coming from somebody that's kind of done their own thing too, to be creative and come up with something like that's pretty neat.
Thanks.
Should have been a VW bus, but that's okay.
Honestly, if I had one, there's nothing cuter. I mean, there's nothing more Instagram ready. Let me tell you.
It's true, but you know they're not fast.
Yeah.
They don't run all that great all the time, and they're really slow. You'd be late everywhere.
Yeah.
She's going to borrow yours real quick, and she's going to put over it instead of Little Free Library. Just put a little flyer over it. Little Free Comedy Show.
Little Free Comedy
Ooh.
Show.
Boom.
Sounds like it might be onto something there.
Yeah.
Bring your shower curtain and just throw it right across that one and pop up right there.
We might have to.
Yeah, that'd be fun. It'd be fun.
Movement shows coming to Folsom.
Yeah. So you started Red Bus. You kind of, like we briefly touched on, you're a big car guy, old school stuff.
Yeah.
I did an episode during COVID with Mike Mraz.
Yep.
At Mraz Brewing, where we did a hot wing challenge, and he mentioned you guys were maybe gonna go into business together of some sort.
Not business per se.
I mean, I use business very loosely.
Collaboration.
I should have put quotation marks around that, but yes.
Well, if we could make money racing, we would go to business together, and we'd probably both get rid of our breweries. I've been a sports car fan for years and do a lot of volunteering with the SCCA, and actually went through licensing school this year to get my competition license. So I do some track days and stuff like that. And Mike is big car guy. We don't like necessarily the same cars.
Right.
He's a old Mopar, Dodge, dragster kind of guy. And he loves bikes too. I think he's Ducati with bikes. Then I'm more into the old German cars and sports cars, Porsches and Volkswagens and Audis and stuff like that. Anyway, whenever we get together, it's been a while. I haven't really spent a lot of time with Mike lately. I'm both just so busy.
Yeah. Trying to keep afloat.
Yeah, just ever changing.
Yeah.
Right. And you got a question?
Oh, I was going to ask, what do you like about the old German cars?
It's just something that's ingrained in me from my dad.
Yeah.
And my dad had an old 69 912 Porsche and VW Bug. And,
cool.
So I've always been a big Porsche fan, a big Volkswagen guy.
It's in your blood.
It is. And there's just something about the air-cooled cars, the way they smell, the way they run. Engine behind you. It's very unique. And it's like anything else. You get raised on it.
Yeah.
You either hate it or you'll love it.
Yeah.
Right? I happen to love it. So anyway, Mike and I I'm always trying to drag him out to a track day or do something. And there's a low budget, or used to be low budget, racing series called the 24 Hours of Lemons. It's a play on the 24 Hours of Le Mans, 24 Hours of Lemons. And it started at Altamont Speedway, which is an old quarter mile or eighth mile oval. The premise of it was you had to show up with a car that cost $500 or less. And you could only do safety upgrades to it that went above $500. So roll cage, brakes. I think you couldn't make it any faster for $500.
It was only make sure you don't die if it fails.
Correct. Right. And it started, I don't know, there was probably 15 people, and it just grew and grew and grew. And then they had some really funny things. They have like a committee that kind of oversees the whole thing, that rules with an iron fist. And so if you did something that they deemed unsafe or against the rules, the original one, they'd pull you into the paddock, and then you would actually have to follow a Volkswagen bus around the track for like 10 laps. That's your punishment. And it grew and grew and grew, and now it's like this really big thing. They run them all over the place.
I mean, it's a great concept.
It is, but they also have gotten away from the hard $500 rule.
I mean, as things become more expensive, even though nothing's changed about them, that makes sense.
Right.
That
But there's
fun.
Another series has come out that's very similar to it called Chump Car, because there's Champ Car, which is any cars they call Chump Car, and then there's Lucky Dog. There's all these racing series so that your average person can get a car, go out there, and have fun.
Yeah.
And so Mike and I decided that we wanted to do it, and we picked up an old 99 F-body Camaro. It's at Mike's house. He has done all the work. Okay, I tell him when I see him, hey, Mike, let me know when you're going to work on the car. Never calls. And then I show up and the roll cage is in there. And then I show up and he's got the exhaust on there. And someday we'll do it.
I feel like Mike is like, yeah, we'll collaborate. But he's like, I only trust me to get this right. So
He's
it's
on
just going to
it.
be me.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's that. I just think he probably...
He's like, you can come in for like aesthetic stuff.
Right. You can put some stickers on the car when we're done. Now, I think what it is he's busy, and then he gets home and he realizes, it's 9 o'clock at night and I got an hour to burn, and I'll go out and work on the car, and Erik's not going to come up here tonight.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think it has anything to do more than that. But there's definitely no differences in opinion. I mean, we want to do it, but just finding the time to do it.
Yeah.
So
Almost
we
everything.
look forward to it, and I was hoping we'd we get a few breweries involved and like just tattoo the car in Sacramento breweries and stuff and just build awareness and stuff. And the thing is, when you show up at these things, you kind of have to schmooze the panel to let you in. Because we'll be over budget, although some of these people are way over budget. I mean, they're driving full-on race cars up there.
Yeah.
So we figure we've got the ultimate bargaining chip with beer, though. I mean, beer's better than money.
And
Beer
with
is
the
king.
two of you, if it's like a beer aficionado, it's like, we're going to do everything you want as far as a beer.
Yeah, I think we got a lot of bases covered between
Yeah.
Mike and I. We definitely do. Yeah, so...
Yeah. What do you want, some rare kind of stuff? You want some rare barrel-aged sours that took years? We got you.
Yep.
You want a
These
nice
sours.
Pilsner? We got you.
Yeah, I think it'd be good. So someday we'll do it. I don't know when it'll be. I'll probably bug him tomorrow now that I'm thinking about it again. It's been a while.
I mean, I don't even technically care, and I think about it all the time. Like, that's really fun.
Ben's living vicariously through this
I
project.
was like,
so
I just
if
want,
you could
well,
give
when you
me
tell me you're going to
updates.
do something, I'm like, yeah, okay.
Well, you
that
keep
seems
bugging
fun.
him too, then, and maybe the two of us can.
Yeah.
We can get us into action here.
Me and him are still working on the idea of a fundraiser with Hot Wings again, with some other beer people. I committed to it like 4 months ago, and then from there I've done no legwork to establish anything as far as like the charity we'd give to. We all agreed we'd pick our own hot sauces. We'd all eat each other's hot sauces. We'd do a fundraiser like, hey, in advance, and then like, challenges within, and like have it streaming live. And it's like, that sounds like a lot of work, and like I gotta make sure the donations are actually getting where they go, so we gotta set up all that, and it's like probably a website, and I'm like, oh god, what if I just like let it fall off the face of the earth?
I think you just do it with a tip jar on the table. And just
Yeah,
say,
it's like it's now only live, and it's like, well, we can't do only live because there's certain people that wouldn't feel comfortable coming to a live one, and we're trying to raise money for charity. You got to do the best you can to bring the money in. And it's just, I'm like, does anybody really care that I'm? But anyway, it's the whole thing I get into my head about.
I remember that episode. I listened to it. That was all commercial hot sauces, or was it some of the stuff that he and Sam actually made?
So the problem was because we kind of did it on spur of the moment. I had gone to a local place that made hot wings that I'd heard was good hot wings, and he had used his own homemade ones.
That's what I thought.
And I was like, man, I wish I had a homemade one, and like I had one friend who makes his own hot sauce, sells it commercially, so I had that too. And I was like, I'm going to do one plain wing with this, which I've done since then on other hot wing eating competitions. So
I have a silly, unrelated question.
no,
but,
it's only hot wing related.
But I'm curious too. Do you see people make very like gendered choices around beer? And if so, like, you know what I mean? Like, do you see like, do women tend to like? Because I was thinking about how I really like sours, and I was like, oh, I wonder if that's. I don't know, and not to like pigeonhole anybody.
You're
I'm
just
not
trying to get me in trouble. Right?
yeah, totally. I was like, this probably is like silly to ask.
This is a
but
hot button issue right now.
no, yeah, I'm just kind of curious.
Since
like
you
themes.
asked, I can.
Yeah.
It's no problem. But if it was a male that asked,
right.
no, I will say that at least here, the sours are predominantly ordered by women.
Okay,
Not
interesting.
only,
Yeah.
not only,
Sure.
but they seem to be more popular with
We
women.
like to pucker up. Mm.
Yeah, but that being said, I mean, we have regular customers that come in and order the West Coast double IPAs, women.
Yep.
So I'm not trying to, put them
Yeah.
in a certain category, but that's been my experience. The hazy beers is, I'd say, 50-50.
Okay.
Everybody's drinking those.
Yep,
Yeah.
everybody's drinking those. The mild, the English, ESB, and those traditional styles are mostly males.
Yeah.
Because I think, and this is a guess, and again, not a stereotype, there's very few women that have been beer drinkers for a long time,
Sure.
at least that come in here.
Yeah.
And they're just not familiar with the styles.
Yeah.
But you get them to try them, and usually they're on board.
Well, that's kind of how I feel too. And I think like we were talking about before about expertise and trusting the person that you're, asking for advice from. And I think that I wonder too if kind of women are, tend to be more like open to suggestion and just like are interested to, I love to get recommendations from somebody who works where I'm ordering something, because I always think that you'll get the best of whatever it is
Right.
they have to offer because they want to lead you down the right path and make you happy. And so, yeah, I feel like there's, like a humility sometimes, at least for me with ordering beer where I'm like, curious, open, but yeah, just kind of curious about those things.
I think females are naturally a little more open to suggestion
Yeah.
like that. Men are, that's what I want. Give it to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't tell me what I want.
Totally, yeah.
So when I'm working behind the bar and I have somebody comes in, they know what they want, I usually ask them a couple of questions first. I don't even let them start picking from the board.
Yeah.
I ask a couple of questions. What if you went to the store? What would you buy? What do you have in your fridge at home? Do you drink wine? What kind of wine? That kind of stuff. And then I will actually pour the samples, and I won't tell them what they are.
Oh.
Because I don't want any preconceived notions. So I'm giving you a hazy
fun.
IPA. I don't like IPAs. I don't like IPAs. I was like, so I don't even say that.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, they will pick something they never would have picked if by the description.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool way too to really learn about yourself and what you like, because I think we are so clouded by like what's popular, and especially if you're not somebody who's like an avid beer drinker or a longtime consumer, you might be like, well, yeah, I know that IPAs are popular, and that seems like that's what people that are into beers like or whatever, and you just might be, I don't know, swayed by that.
Yeah, you're leaving a lot of things, and there's in the beer industry, there's a lot of like buzzwords, or not the anti-buzzword, the word that will like a kill word.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right,
So
right.
like ESB, it's short for extra special bitter, and
Yes.
they see that
I
word
was gonna
bitter,
ask you that
and they
earlier.
freak out. They're like, "What do you mean bitter?" I'm like, "It's nowhere near as bitter as anything else you would order. It's so not bitter. It's because that style's hundreds of years old.
It's just the way the English.
Yeah,
It's the way the English came up with the names.
yeah,
Yeah.
Because
And we don't put bitter on the board. We call it extra special.
right.
That's smart.
And
Yeah.
that's special.
The
Yeah.
women's
I
like,
like bitter.
the girls are like, I want an extra special beer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it come with a ribbon?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's just you have to get away from things. I heard that rye was a kill word.
I think it probably is because of rye bread.
Yeah, totally. And
It's,
that's very
it's naturally
polarizing.
bitter.
Yes.
But I love rye bread, first of all, and second, who doesn't love a rye whiskey?
Well,
There's nobody.
not everybody.
That's true.
I
Also.
do.
Yeah.
But
But it's true. It is one
that's
of
a
those words
polarizing
that
or a kill
has
word.
a strong flavor profile attached to it that I
Yeah.
bet people would be kind of inflexible
And
around.
so there's a lot of beers
sometimes.
that IPAs. A lot of IPAs do have rye, and you're like, don't mention it because
Right.
if you say that, it will not sell. I think the idea of mild, it's like you can't have bitter and you can't have mild. Like, what can I have?
Right.
That's a good point too, because there probably is sometimes a connotation around mild.
Of no flavor,
Right.
kind of boring. And there's a ton of flavor in this mild.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
There's just at least 8 easily identifiable flavors in there.
completely
Nothing
agree.
mild about it.
And that's tricky to pull off too, I bet. To
There's
have
nothing to hide
something
behind
that's
in those beers.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
exactly, right? There's
Yeah,
nothing
they're so light. They're so low in alcohol. And we do ours. We try and do it on nitro because it
Yeah.
just makes it a little more full. Pulls the mouthfeel and the body up. But it's funny. The extra special bitters. It's so funny you mention that because it is so true. So we've played with a couple of different style names for it. ESB,
Yeah.
which is okay because it doesn't say bitter.
Yeah.
Right.
Some people
But they ask
know
you what it
ESB.
means, and now it's like, damn
Right.
it.
So I will say for a long time we had ESB up there, and I would say it's an English amber ale. That was okay.
Yeah.
But if you mention the name bitter, you have to go through this whole kind of historical lesson on English pale ales and what they were called, and none of those are anywhere bitter compared to Sierra Nevada.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah. No, and I do think bitter is an interesting flavor for me. Like I was saying too, just kind of having a love of food. And when I think of bitter, I think about digestion, and that's very supportive of digestion, like bitter foods. And so it wouldn't scare me away, but I could see how that would. People think that bitter is bad.
Well,
a bad
the whole
taste.
point is
Yeah.
that it's not a bitter beer.
and that it's not even
Right.
bitter. So
Right,
that it's
it's way more
misleading.
malt forward than
Right.
it is
Incredibly.
hop forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course you got your cream ales. And people are like, I don't want to drink a milky beer. And it's like, it's not.
I don't want vanilla.
Yeah, and it's like, so you can call it a blonde, even though it's not technically a blonde, but it's close enough. Blonde sells, cream doesn't. You just change the name. It's a whole dumb thing.
I've already mentioned the liking sours. I also really like lagers. What's up with that?
They're delicious.
They're
just,
great.
Yeah, they're just delicious. We didn't even pour you any of this.
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
go grab
Yeah,
you a little
yeah,
if you
yeah.
want. You guys, can I run over there
Yeah,
real fast?
absolutely.
Yeah.
You guys able to entertain yourselves for?
I don't know.
30?
I don't know her that well.
I
She's a
imagine.
stranger
This
as
is
far as
my
I'm
buddy.
concerned.
Okay,
He's
I'll be right
lying.
back. You guys want anything else? You want anything else? You good?
I'm good, thank you.
I'll get you. You want just
a
one of
short-
these?
Yeah, thank you.
It's a whole thing, Shahera. You're just opening up all kinds of cans
I'm
of
loving
worms.
it because I was like, you know what? Let me make this podcast interesting to me and ask the questions
Wait,
that I
was
want
it
to
not
know.
interesting to you before this?
No, it is very interesting to me. I'm just like, oh, let me try to have the conversation I want to
Please
have
do.
about beer because, even though I imagine people that generally listen to this are, they're like people that own breweries, people that are very knowledgeable and interested in beer, but some people may also have similar questions to me and just kind of knowing about the culture that surrounds it. I don't know. I'm always curious
There's
about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So he was like, "Ooh, what do women drink?" And he's like, "You're making me ask the question." So there's a big problem with women in beer right now,
Sure.
as there is in any industry. It's like, hey, we would like to stop being harassed.
Yeah.
And we would like people to
Fair.
stop telling us that we don't want stouts. Like if somebody, like there's a lot of,
Yeah.
stouts are delicious. They're coffee, they're chocolate.
Totally.
Who doesn't want that?
Right?
But like a lot of bartenders will be like, oh, you don't want that because you're a woman and with your dainty, you want a sour, but by the way, not a real sour, because a real sour is bold and strange. You want like a kettle sour that's mostly strawberry. And so there's like a little thing going on about like, hey, we need to change the way that this industry views and handles women, and like their complaints about the industry, which are completely valid. So
Yeah. No, I think that's super like valid and interesting to talk about as well. Just to, I don't know, give voice to some of those things.
Yeah.
And just to kind of like approach it in a way that feels sort of unserious and also just has the conversation. Like we're not scared to have the conversation. Yeah. I think too, to me, it's interesting sometimes because I feel like men have stigma around what they drink, sometimes more, definitely than like women have. I think with women where you do have like sometimes more flexibility, and sometimes men, you'll be out with a guy who will be like, oh, I really want this, but I'm afraid that's like for girls. Or I'm afraid that's for
like
women.
the fruity
and I'm always
drinks.
like, your drinks aren't gendered. Like, you could, whatever speaks to you, have what you want. Like, go with what you interests you. And so that's always funny to me too, that kind of flip side of it. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys that just kind of come up. I want to whisper my order in your ear,
Yeah.
so nobody else can hear what I'm ordering.
Totally. I'm like, get your
I
Shirley
want that-
Temple, babe. It's
I
good.
want a drink that's blue.
Yeah.
Like, you're allowed to do that.
Right.
Just do that.
Right.
Totally.
Like we're like, there's a purple one that's called a Superman. Like you're
Yeah.
good. We're fine.
We're fine. Yeah.
Yeah, the guys are probably apt to get a little more shit from their friends than the women are.
Yeah, and that's just like, no, I'm just going to have a good time and drink something I enjoy drinking. And I think at the end of the day, that's where everything should go. Are you
Yes.
having a good time, and do you enjoy what you're doing?
Yes.
Like legitimately. Are
That's his life.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying too. And just there's no need to police each
You get one
other's
pass at
interests.
this.
Like
Right.
it's fine. Let people like what they like. Yeah.
I love a frou-frou drink. Are you going to give me a frou-frou drink? I'll drink it.
Right.
I'm ready. It's,
Yeah,
pro-
pina
it's
colada
also
with a little
secretly
umbrella.
more alcoholic than the drink you were drinking most of the
Truly.
time. So, like, really, that's manly, depending on what your definitions are. So,
Yeah. So will you tell us about this cream ale?
That's not cream ale.
Oh.
It's a Munich Helles Lager. So we are ramping up for our Oktoberfest,
Cool.
which probably be over by the time the podcast gets published. But it's
you don't know anything about this. No, maybe.
Yeah, well, I don't know. See. But yeah, we're doing our Oktoberfest on Labor Day weekend,
Fun.
so it's early. It's because I got a whole bunch of stuff to do.
You're right.
in
It will be.
September,
It
so-
will already be passed, but I think it'll be like the next day. So I'm very sorry.
Oh, good. Okay, well then we should have some of this beer left.
Yeah, so come by.
So we like to do one or two like traditional German style beers for Oktoberfest, which I think if you're going to do one, you should do that.
Yeah.
But we really pride ourselves in them and try and make them.
That's good.
We try and make them very authentic and tradition. So we did a Munich Helles, which is what you have and what Ben's been drinking.
Yep.
Very light, Pilsner malt, under 5%, bready, malty, very malt forward, very low bitterness, noble German style hops, just crushable, easy.
It's tasty. And it makes me very nostalgic for. I used to go to the Turnverein for their annual Oktoberfest, and this reminds me of getting just absolutely shit faced
Oh, yeah.
there.
Yeah.
I used
yeah.
to get so drunk. It was one of the most debaucherous nights that me and my friends would have every year.
Yep.
Was
Yeah.
Oktoberfest, and not. I don't even know if that's a culture like in Germany, but in Sacramento, let me tell you, we
The
turned
Turnverein
it
is about
out.
as close as it gets.
Yeah.
Right.
Shout out to Andrew Hartman, longtime friend and friend of the pod. We used
up,
to go
Andrew?
every couple of years.
Yeah.
Like we would go pretty consistently. He moved, but we would go. Oh God, it was great. But yeah, you were just like, how do I leave this? You're like, no, you don't.
No.
You're stuck here.
And this is a very good version, I think, too, of those kind of beers.
Well,
that-
thank you. Yeah, we do. We haven't necessarily done this one every year, but we had to take the yeast and build it up so we could do the higher alcohol version of the German Fest beer.
Right.
So this was the first one, and then the Fest beer is still conditioning in our bright tank, and it's really a very similar beer in terms of the percentages of what you use in it. A lot of people think that Fest beer in the States is more of Märzen because of the way that Sierra Nevada and Sam Adams make their Oktoberfest. But if you actually go to Munich and go to
Yeah.
Oktoberfest, their fest beer is a little more like a Hellesbock, and then it's light in color, and it's 6-7%. It doesn't have that amber color like a Marzen does.
Right.
More people are kind of familiar with Marzen. They think that's the Oktoberfest style, but it's not really what a fest beer is. So we have one of those too, and then we do a big party. We have like 800 steins that we sell. We have Oompa bands both Saturday and Sunday. Terrific Oompa bands. I mean,
Oompa bands. I've never heard that
yeah.
phrase.
Yeah. They do the traditional Oompa music, polka style stuff, but then they do covers. And then we have our own house band that's opening on Friday night. For that, I'm the lead singer.
Hey,
So we do
through.
90s alternative rock. No real Oktoberfest.
Love that.
Yeah. So Foo Fighters,
Very my era of music.
Nirvana, Pearl Jam, that kind of stuff. And so it'll be a really, really fun weekend.
Okay, I might
great
have to come
weekend.
through for that.
It's great. We have the whole parking lot blocked off. It's by far our biggest party of the year.
Fun.
That's fun.
Yeah, I do want to kind of talk about fest beer and Marzen and things like that. I do like going, like you said, to Turnverein, and seeing I think their main one is Spaten, correct?
Yes.
That we usually would do, but just when you go out and you start to I used to do I'm going to have an Oktoberfest at home, but I would go buy all these ones and seeing the color gradation just change, how from light, how light it would be to how dark it would be, and the ABV differences. I was yeah, this is great. I actually I think that was one of my first real beer experiments. Is what is this? And it's it kind of is what you make it. There's an idea of these are the ingredients you use, but the end product can be this wide range of
It
stuff.
can. Yeah, it can. I mean, the most important part is it's a lager and it's lightly hopped. I mean, really, it should be very malt forward with
Okay.
a moderate level of alcohol, to get you to where you need to be on Oktoberfest.
And moderate is in the eye of the beholder.
That's right.
Some of my most fun memories in my 20s. Yeah.
Turn right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then trying to get home.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I am going to humiliatingly admit this on the podcast, but I did one of the most irresponsible things I've ever done leaving the Turnverein after Oktoberfest. And I biked up a one-way street home, which... When I think about that in the sober light of day, I'm cringing. But, it's 10, 12 years ago, and I lived and everything, but I can't believe I made it home that night.
We all have one of those. And that's when I realized I'm irresponsible. I
Exactly.
need to make a change. Yeah, I'm pretty sure my Turnvereins ended up going down the street to that English bar that I will never remember the name of
Bon
when
Lair.
I'm Bon Lair.
Bon Lair.
I
Great place.
guarantee
It
it's
is a
where I
great
end up
place,
next
yeah.
every time. I don't live in that area. It's not a good idea. But I guarantee that's where I ended up at the end
You
of the
go to
night.
Oktoberfest, you need to plan a ride home that's
Yeah.
not you. It's not you in your car. It's not
Right.
you on your bike. It's
Yeah.
not you on your feet.
Yeah.
It's somebody else taking you
Yeah,
home.
and now it's easier, but 10 years ago, it was
Yeah.
you had to call a friend to be
Right.
hey, will you be sober?
And I thought I was
At 8
being
p.m.?
cool and responsible on my bike.
Yeah.
And then I'm up J Street just like an insane person.
Well, and the calling a friend part's great because either they're a friend that you didn't invite to go with you,
Right. And there's something...
or they're a non-drinking friend, which can be irritated as hell with you when you get in a car.
Yeah,
and
because
you're,
That part.
you
you're
know,
the worst version of the person
I'm
you
recalling
are.
my sister and telling her, get me a pizza. Get me a pizza. It wasn't even a question. It was just an order.
You know, we can get you a pizza.
Yeah, good. Hey, great segue.
Look at me go.
Hey.
Yeah,
I'm a pro.
yeah. We started doing pizza September. Stole the idea from Andrew down at Flatland.
yeah.
We were all struggling with just ways to serve beer.
Yeah. Especially
And-
with the regulations where you had to have food and beer.
Right.
And and food trucks would go into the highest bidder at that point.
Yeah, we've never been the highest bidder for food trucks. We
Right.
just don't have the seats.
Right. On a
Maybe,
Tuesday, you might be able to win it out.
but
Maybe.
we can't get that many people here on
Right.
Tuesday. So yeah, the food trucks are interesting. I mean, we got a lot of them when we first started because there weren't a lot of places in Folsom that they came. So new market,
Yeah.
right? But then a number
They're
of
like,
seats.
oh, wait.
Yeah, and I think there were certain trucks that fit in Folsom and some that didn't. The fried food ones didn't work here.
Nope.
I don't know if they work really anywhere, but so anyway, we had to come up with a way to be able to serve beer when we were open outside at first. And Andrew started doing the pizza thing, went down, had some pizza, talked to him. He's such a great guy. And
Yeah.
he's such a...
I hate him. He's so...
Well, because he's so cool.
He's so perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate it.
Yeah, I know. I won't admit that I hate him, but deep down I probably do too.
Yeah, it's just jealousy. Andrew, if you're listening, it's just jealousy. It's not
Yeah.
anything personal.
Yeah.
It's our own problem. We'll talk about with therapists.
He's just so gracious,
Yeah.
He's always open and so
Warm
And
and
I'm
inviting.
open too. I just don't have nearly the information to share as he does. So
Yeah, if there was the level of warmth for a human being, Andrew Motion-Zodigan would be a pizza oven.
right. Yeah, I wouldn't be because I'm not the warmest person. So I don't know what I would be, but he was so gracious. We went down, John, my GM, myself, and we talked about the pizza, how he was doing it, and the health department, how it all worked, and immediately came back, reached out to the health department person that's kind of done our inspections here. And they were also, I mean, a lot of people like to think or do think for whatever reason during the pandemic that the health officials, government officials, and all of them were out to get us and were just all about applying rules to us. And that really wasn't the case. I mean, many of them understood what we were going through and were so helpful. Like he came out here. I showed him what we want to do. He's like, get this, and this, order it, boom. We had the whole thing done in about a month.
Nice.
And have a really cool wood-fired oven out there. We do our own dough. We use some dry malt extract in it, so it has kind of a little bit of a beer thing to it.
Yeah.
And we hand stretch them, and we do some really cool monthly pizzas. So right out of the gate, we actually had an Oktoberfest style pizza that we made.
What does that even mean?
So we took baking soda wash on the crust and pretzel salt.
Okay.
And so we pretzeled the crust.
Okay.
Cool.
And then we made our own red cabbage sauerkraut
Yes.
with our own lacto beer culture.
Nice.
And then bratwurst.
Yep.
And then we had the sauce.
Now, are you doing a thin sliced bratwurst or a thick sliced
No, they're
bratwurst?
pretty thick little.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
okay.
would actually cut the bratwurst ourselves.
All right.
And then it was a combination of spicy and stone ground mustard on the base. Mm-hmm. And then we made a beer cheese in a ramekin. We'd stick it right in the middle. So when you're done, you could take your pretzel crust and dip it in the beer cheese. Oh my God, it was a hit.
I
God.
need
How could it
this
not be?
pizza.
It was incredible.
Are you doing it again this year?
Yeah, we'll do it again this year.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
we won't do it the
definitely
Oktoberfest
coming.
weekend, but it'll probably start sometime in September and go through October.
So after this episode's out.
Yes, after the episode, it'll be available.
So, you know.
Get the Oktoberfest
Just,
pizza, everybody. Are you
follow
crazy?
Red Bus.
That sounds
It's so good.
Be on the
It's so
lookout.
good.
I need
Yeah.
that.
It's good.
Yeah. Sorry, I just said follow Red Bus, and I feel like what
You'd be going really slow.
right. But I feel like, have you considered this for a marketing opportunity where you just like have your Red Bus traveling through Folsom, and then as you're about to open, you like make a path back to the brewery, and people can
Good
follow
idea.
the Red Bus.
Yeah.
I think you have to behave like you're a parade float if you
Right.
do that, and you have to have somebody kind of princess waving out of a window.
Yeah.
You need
We
maybe
open
like
at 3, and
Right. No, what I
I
drive.
apologize if it's the wrong opening time. I didn't do my research.
Oh
Before
yeah,
we opened
yeah.
it.
Pay no attention to Ben.
Thank you.
None of you do anyway.
What time do we open? Just so I can redo
Noon.
that. We open at noon, and
Yeah.
you just drive by the Dutch Brothers. There's a line out there. You're just like, we open at noon.
Right.
Forget your coffee. It's
We
time
have
for
coffee
beer.
flavored beer. Come with us. Yeah.
Life
No,
is short.
It's funny what I drive because I have a 68 bus and then my double cab pickup's also a 68. So I basically drive because the bus is Red Bus tattooed and then the truck is Combi Pizza.
Yep.
So whatever I feel like needs a little more promotion is what I drive that way.
Nice.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And you get a lot of promotion in those because they're so slow.
Yeah.
Your 15-minute drive is more like 20, so that's 5 extra minutes of eyeballs.
Yeah.
There you go.
And somebody's mad at you, like, I'm going to Google it. Like, actually, it looks pretty good, actually. You know, now that I mention it, I do want pizza.
Maybe if I tell him that I was stuck behind him, he'll give me a discount.
Yeah.
I
Is
want
there a
that
discount?
pizza right now.
Take a picture of my license plate and come in for $1 off.
So one of the funny things when we first started doing the pizza thing is it wasn't economical to have the oven on all day every day.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things we learned pretty quickly. We didn't think about that when we first did it. So we started making pizza pockets, like Hot Pockets.
Okay.
So we would, on Sundays, at the end of the day, we'd make X number of Hot Pockets, and then we had a little convection oven. We'd reheat those during the day. And they were pretty good. I mean, we still get people come in like, hey, you guys still got those Hot Pockets? They're very doughy, but
Yeah.
they were our version of the Hot Pockets.
Yeah. What'd you call them? Warm?
Pizza Pockets.
Okay, there you go.
Really boring name.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to kind of work your way around it.
Right.
Well, I am drinking the Samba juice right now.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
described as the smoothie IPA, fruity IPA. It's tasty.
You like it?
I do like it.
So that was a collab we did 2.5-3 years ago with Moxa.
Oh.
Scott Williams and I have been homebrewers together, and he's been a customer of the Brewmeister for a long time. And such a great brewery over there. Totally different
Yeah.
than us.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
when you're talking about those beers, we're like, oh my God, there's so many powerful things. That's Moxa. They're like,
Okay, yeah.
they
Also
go
fun.
real
Yeah.
deep on like you
Big
gotta get
stouts.
flavor.
Yeah, big stuff. Very flavorful beers. Very rich beers. You know what? They can crank out some darn good
Oh, yeah.
pilsners and small.
For
So they're
sure.
just very talented group
They're
of people
so
over
good.
there. Yeah, but in a kind of a different stratosphere
Yeah.
than
Sure.
what we are and what we set out to be.
Yeah.
but I thought it was a
Different goals.
fun collab.
Yeah.
And so they came over and we made Samba juice, and Samba is the slang name for the 23 window buses. You know, the ones that are so collectible with all the windows.
Oh.
They're called Samba buses, and so that's, if you look at the label, it's right up there. The hat's in the way, but it's a bus.
Oh, yeah.
A bus that's a blender with the blender thing on top. And at that beer we make twice a year, and people ask about it all year long. Like, they love it.
Okay, so I have a question too. This is also maybe silly. I don't know why I feel the need to preface that. But so, in wine, when we're talking about different fruit flavors, all the different fruit flavors come from a grape.
Right.
So in beer, when we're talking about fruit flavors, where are those fruit flavors coming from?
Could be coming from hops.
Okay.
And quite often they do. So the
Yeah.
citrus, stone fruit. Stone fruit actually is a yeast, a yeast byproduct, but it also could come from hops.
That makes sense.
But then more and more so these days, fruit flavor comes from fruit.
Yeah.
A lot of this fruit. So there's pineapple puree, mango puree, and then we use a little bit of banana extract in that.
Yeah.
Because we did it with powdered banana the first time. We'll never ever do that again. The powdered
What
banana
happened?
Well, we were trying to add it to the fermenter. It was everywhere, and it's sticky and gross.
Yeah.
It was
The texture of banana is a tricky thing to work with sometimes.
bad. And it killed the foam.
Okay.
So we just use a small. I don't like using extracts per se, but it's
Yeah.
it's probably like 13 ounces in 15 barrels.
Yeah, it's
the
not
other-
a strong banana flavor.
No, and you don't want a strong banana
No.
flavor because in many instances it's a complete off flavor for beer. So we
Yeah.
try and have it there for the
interesting.
smoothie moniker.
Yeah.
It's funny because I'm picking up a lot of banana, but
Really? I'm not.
well,
Well, that's the problem with it. It doesn't take much for
Sure.
a lot
yeah,
of people to just
really
overpower
taste it,
them. Yeah.
yeah, because everybody's taste buds are different,
Sure.
and so I target that, and I target melon.
Yeah.
And so if you have any
I can taste more of the
Any-
melon and pineapple.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you give me honeydew flavor, that's all I'm going to get out of your beer. It's like
Yeah.
100%. I'm like, I don't care what else is in here. I'm just honeydew.
Honestly, I like honeydew flavor.
I do
so,
too,
yeah.
but I'm like, they're like, oh, there's other things. Like, not to
No.
me.
You're like, nope.
Oh.
Sorry, bad news about my palate. It's honeydew. You give me any honeydew. I'm like, it's honeydew, which I love. But like, I know you made this beer to be balanced and like this cool thing with like
Yeah.
multiple flavors. All I'm going to
It's
taste.
honeydew.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so the same thing with banana. It's like, I'm just gonna, if you have it in there at all. that's
There
all
is
I'm
a
gonna focus
honeydew
on.
popsicle. It's called Melona. This is a brand of like kind of fruit pops. It's like an Asian brand of fruit popsicles. They make the best fruit flavored popsicles I've ever had. But they have a honeydew that is absolutely out of this world. So
Really?
like floral, beautiful. Their mango is great. Their coconut is great. Their honeydew to me is like their flagship.
That's
yeah.
such an interesting flavor.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, different. I mean,
You
it's
hear
not something you
that?
taste all the time.
And you hear that a lot in white wine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Honeydew Chardonnay kind of. Yeah.
White wine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Orange wine is a whole new popular thing now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yes.
I'm also heavily on the record anti-smoothie and milkshake IPAs.
Yeah.
So,
I
Right.
hear you,
You
on
know
that.
what you like. Yeah.
yeah.
There is no lactose in that, just so you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
But yeah, I'm like, this is not a style for me, and I'm not. But like, it's not anywhere near the worst I've had
It's
of a
good
smoothie
to
IPA.
me. To me, it is.
And
Do
that's
other
really
people make a
tasty.
smoothie IPA?
I've seen some smoothies.
Oh.
They're lying around.
Oh, now I'm disappointed.
I don't know if
I'm
I've
probably the
ta-
only one.
But to be fair, I haven't drunk them.
Yeah, okay.
So, cause I'm like, I know it's not for me.
This is tasteful. This does not feel like.
Oh, it's a
I
very
don't know.
flavorful beer.
Yeah.
It's funny because we did it and people went nuts over it.
Yeah.
Right. And part of that was just because we did it with Moxa. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, they have such a huge following, and
Yeah.
it was great for us. And then I got an email from Jamba Juice Corporate.
Oh boy.
And I'm like, oh God, do I even open this?
Oh no.
And there was a phone number, please call us. And I called, and it was their, I don't know, branding, whatever, attorney, in-house attorney. And I said, okay, lay it on me. Do you need my address for the cease and desist? She's like, oh, absolutely not. She goes, tell me more about it. And I told her about it. I sent her all the information.
Yeah.
She's like, we love this. Like, we love it. We love you're a California brand. We love the bus.
Yes.
We love everything about it, And she said, as long as you kind of stay in the lane you're in,
Yep.
don't worry about it, which was really cool.
Yeah.
They are vigilant because it's called Samba Juice. So my guess.
Yeah, but look at the font.
Right.
I mean,
Okay,
it's-
yeah.
I mean,
but they must have a Google alert because you can imagine. I mean, we're in Folsom,
It got a
California.
lot.
There's somebody whose
it
job
got
is
a lot of
attention.
buzz when we first came
Well,
out
that's
with it.
cool. I
Yeah.
mean, that's almost a good thing too that
Yeah.
it got to the attention of just this massive national brand.
Yeah.
Even that it must have
Yeah.
been doing pretty well.
And
because I can only imagine they must have Google alerts for Bamba, Kamba, Damba,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Famba. You know what I mean? So once they got to Samba, it's like
Well, and I know Tilted Mash did one recently.
Yamba use.
Yamba use. I'll bet, I wouldn't be surprised if they got
They hit him up
something
for
like
sure.
that.
Yeah, they definitely did a change recently on that name for some reason.
Yeah.
To be determined.
Yeah.
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 You'll have to
you know
ask
what?
them.
And I'm not the biggest fan of, we did it. I don't know if I'd do it again.
Sure.
Yeah, part of me thinks it's a little bit cheating. Like, you should come up with your own branding like
Right.
that.
Sure.
But
But puns, I mean, that's
Right.
drag,
Right.
baby. That's
Yeah.
culture. That's,
think it's
you know
fun.
what I mean? It's a cultural reference, and that
And
that
it's-
speaks to people.
and it's true to what it is. Like, it is
Yeah.
very much like what they make.
Right.
True.
Yeah,
So that's why I thought it was
Absolutely.
cool.
It's an homage. And
Yes.
Samba has many different meanings.
Correct.
So really,
Yes.
you're celebrating many different things. It's like, by the way, it's also kind of juicy.
Right.
Well, I'm glad to hear they liked it and
They did.
didn't give you too much shit.
They were cool. I was hoping they wanted to put a cooler in each store and we could start making it for them, but
Yeah,
we didn't get that far.
You're hoping the Jamba Juice would get their alcohol license
Right.
already.
Right.
Like you,
Right.
known to push healthy
They
things.
should.
You want to do alcohol?
Post-pandemic, Jamba Juice should have their alcohol licenses. We
Absolutely.
all need
Yeah.
a little more booze.
Yeah. I'm not here to make decisions for people.
No.
No. No. I haven't a hard enough time making decisions for myself.
Yeah. But one day,
Yeah. The decision
Red
would be
Bus Samba
ours.
Juice across the world, available everywhere. Get it at your grocery. Get it only at Jamba Juice. I don't know how they would decide to do it, but I would imagine it's probably in-house.
I had dreams.
Yeah.
They were crushed quickly.
Yeah. Crushed like the ice in a... Delicious.
I imagine that would be really good in a smoothie machine, though.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Or I'm sorry, what do they call
The
it? Not
slushy machine.
Slushy machine.
Slushy
yeah.
machine
See,
makes
you can
us
see
look
how
like-
up I am on all
This
that
is now
trendy
a
stuff.
thing with beer. We do beer slushies is a thing that exists.
And I
Okay, so
not got myself there
I
yet.
haven't had a beer slushie and I haven't heard of this yet, but so a beer slushie, is that just going to be beer and ice or is it like beer and fruit and ice?
It's a beer in a
Almost
slushy
like
machine.
daiquiri, okay, it's just like a slushy to beer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. The frosé is like a popular thing, right? So
Yes.
sort of like similar idea where it's just
Mm-hmm.
like frozen rosé, or maybe it's like frozen fruit that's blended with rosé,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a lower ABV, but kind of a fun like festival drink or summer drink type of a situation. Yeah.
Right. Same idea.
Okay.
Yeah. same
On a
idea.
hot day, come in at noon
What
and have this thing.
what flavor would you see in like a beer slushy? What kind of beer would they?
I mean,
I mean, this would probably be fine.
any kind of fruit infused
yeah.
thing, a fruited sour, something
Right.
like that. It has to be pretty fruit forward, though. I think to
Interesting. Yeah.
do it, and maybe some lactose and sweeten it up a little bit, but
Yeah.
So that's
not
what-
really in our lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So lactose is like kind of it's like a
milk
gentle
sugar.
way to sweeten, right?
Yeah, it's-
Okay. So
yeah,
it
and it
sort of
just-
like eats. Yeah.
It's a way to sweeten a beer and that the yeast won't eat.
okay.
It's a bigger molecule, so the yeast can't consume it, so it'll stick around.
Oh,
You try and
cool.
put regular sugar in there, it just bumps the alcohol
Yeah.
because it all gets chewed away. That's why
Totally.
lactose gets used for that kind of thing. We
Thank you.
do. We have crossed the line a little bit into
Uh-oh.
seltzer.
I saw that.
We had to because everybody was sneaking them in here. It pissed me off.
That
boy.
sucks.
That sucks.
Honestly, I saw that this past weekend at a venue that I was at. It'll remain unnamed,
the
but people
worst.
snuck in their White Claws.
Well, the worst part is they sneak them in and then they leave them on the table for us to clean up. It's like
Yeah.
you sneak them in, just shove them in your purse and
Yeah.
leave.
Yeah.
You know, I
Right?
mean, I don't
Get
care.
out of
Yeah.
here.
So we did the.
What is it with the camping where you like bring it in, bring it out? What's
Yeah,
pack it
Yeah,
in,
yeah,
pack it out?
pack it in, pack it out.
Yeah, pack it in, pack it out. If you're gonna sneak stuff in, bring it out with you.
You
Don't.
take out your trash
Yeah.
at the very least.
And now that I think of it, we should have called it "If You Can't Beat Them, Join Them." That's what should have been the name of it. So we should have called the seltzer. We did it. It's a raspberry seltzer, but one of the things I came up with is we just get the little fruit popsicles. You know, just the cheap little, the 2 sticks that you can break them in half.
Okay.
Love
And
childhood.
so you can order it and then pick your popsicle flavor, and we stick it in there and pour it over the popsicle for you.
Cute.
Okay, so it melts down a little bit, then you leave it in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, what do you pour over the popsicle?
Yeah, we put the popsicle in the glass and then pour the seltzer over the popsicle.
the
and then you
seltzer
just sit there,
base
stir
are
it.
flavored.
And then the popsicle is
melts
boozy?
No, it just melts in the seltzer and gives it whatever food flavor you
Okay,
picked.
yeah.
So you use your seltzer base.
Yep. It's
But
a
it's
raspberry seltzer base.
a
but
non-alcoholic.
no, it's a hard seltzer.
Oh, okay. So the seltzer is alcoholic.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Oh, you'll have one now?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
What popsicle flavors you got?
I'm like, I'm hungry. I'll eat a popsicle.
No,
That's
you
been
drink
really
it.
popular, though, because you essentially get like 6 different drinks out of one
Yeah.
drink.
Well, yeah, and when you live like in the Sacramento surrounding area, I mean, we know that heat is a thing that we are going to be facing. So it's like having stuff that's like special that makes going out in the heat fun, you know,
Yeah.
I think is really smart. Yeah.
It's been popular.
Cool.
I mean, when we brought the seltzer on, it was the 1 out of every 2 drinks the first weekend we had it on. which-
Really? I am not a fan of hard seltzer personally.
Me
I think
neither.
it's disgusting. I can't believe it makes sense as far as diet culture, but I didn't know that people were that swept up in diet culture. I mean, to me, I would rather enjoy what I love in moderation than like
But you could drink
stomach what I
22 of them,
don't
yeah.
love, you know, to get drunk. I don't know. I'm also
Yeah.
not 22. Yeah. So,
I'd just rather walk around while I'm drinking my beer. Maybe that would help.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's hard.
Because a warm seltzer is the worst thing you could put in your mouth.
What's that?
A warm seltzer?
seltzer.
Oh, geez. They just make me more thirsty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Oh,
so dry.
Dry. Yeah, they just dry you out.
I
Right.
don't like artificial sugars as
Right.
well. And so I know that's a big part of the thing is like it's 0 calories or low calorie or whatever. And to me, it's not worth it. To me, I'd rather, I don't know, go for a walk and have a beer than, drink
Right.
a seltzer
Right.
all night.
Pay your dues another way.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Right.
exactly. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. What's the experience you're having? Oh, this reminds me of black cherry. Also, I'm kind of drunk.
yeah. No, and it's like, ooh, it's a nasty black cherry. You know,
Oh,
these
it's
are
the worst
nasty
flavor. Nobody's
flavors to
ever
me.
replicated black
I'm just
cherry
like-
as a thing worth drinking.
To me, too, hedonism, which I do identify as, you know,
As a veteran
I want
hedonist.
to enjoy the pleasures of life. So if I'm enjoying alcohol, I'm enjoying what's coming along with it. You know, I want a good beer or a good glass of wine or a good cocktail. I don't really want to just muscle through it for a kind of a party atmosphere. I mean, if you're trying to, you know, whatever, get laid, do what you have to do. But that's not the culture for me. Yeah.
I mean, I could see maybe on a hot summer day, sit out by your pool having one, but not for me. I just
I've
don't
had maybe
like
3
it.
or 4 of them, you know, but it's only ever been kind of in a moment where that's the only thing really on offer, and that's fine. I'll have a drink, but it's not what I would bring to a party, and not what I would drink at a venue.
I would do a vodka soda before I would do that.
I would too. I would
And
too.
then
I
with
would
just
rather
a lime or a lemon in it, and that's all I would
Beautiful.
need.
right? Because there's no artificial flavors in
Right.
that, and that's already going to be better.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's very similar, I think. In
And
what you're
there's a
getting.
little bit of light sweetness.
Right.
I'm always like, I would prefer like a low real sugar than a bunch of fake sugar.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Cheers to that. And I think there's one beer in our flight we haven't talked about yet. That's the Brussels to Brew.
Please.
Known worldwide from its appearance in Bruges with Colin Farrell.
Never seen it.
I mean,
People can tell me it's great, and I'm like, why do I keep falling asleep in the first 10 minutes then?
wait, where is Bruges? Bruges?
In Bruges.
Brussels?
It's another city in Belgium.
It's in Belgium.
Okay, I've
Yeah.
been to Belgium. I've been to Brussels.
Yeah, it was just a Wikipedia name.
It's like
What am I going to call this?
from east to west Belgium.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, I see. Brussels to Bruges.
Yeah.
So it's a 12% Tripel
12%?
warming.
Yeah, this is the perfect time to drink it now.
Yeah, it should be perfect right now. But
It's great.
we took 12 barrels of that, and it's aging in Chateau Montelena Chardonnay barrels right now.
So these are barrels that then a winery has used to age
Yes.
their Chardonnay,
Yes.
and then they've given them to you to then age your beer. Okay, cool.
These barrels are from the winery that the movie Bottle Shock was about.
Oh.
The first winery.
Which is a great
in-
film.
Yeah, the great film was the Napa Valley winery went up against the French winemakers and beat them Those barrels are from that winery, which is a beautiful place way at the north end of the Napa Valley there, right off of Silverado. So that will go, the other version of it, that is not the Chardonnay barrel-aged version.
It's a regular boring-ass version.
Boring-ass on tap out of a keg version. So the Chardonnay version is terrific. It's a totally different. It smells like Chardonnay. The warming, because you can taste the booze in that beer. That's gone. You don't even taste it. So I'm really looking forward to that one coming out. It'll be another month or two. And
Okay. So maybe when I come back from Oktoberfest. No?
that's like
A little
2
past
weeks.
that. Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my God, you're right.
Yeah, yeah. That's coming
Time
up.
is the worst.
Okay.
Time sucks.
Yeah.
Edit this part out.
I will not. It's in
So
here
probably
forever.
around Christmas,
Okay,
I think,
cool.
when we get to it.
Yeah, when you're like, I need a drink, and I want to not know I'm drinking.
Yeah.
We got you.
I'm really thrilled about that. I think it's going to be really, really good. We do a reserve series every year, and we package it and make it look like an old liquor bottle. So we always do. First year we took our Oktoberfest and put it in bourbon barrels.
It was so good.
It was
by the
tasty,
way.
and it was only like a 7% beer.
Yeah.
That's the other thing we do.
That's
We
the other
take
thing.
low alcohol
I was
beers and
gonna
we put them
tell
in
you.
barrels.
Yeah, because you have the Kumbi.
Yes, the Combi Barrel Project.
Yeah, sorry.
So that's sours and liquor barrel aged stuff. And normally we don't do the really high alcohol stuff. And I can't even tell you why. Like I don't have any problem with 15%, 18%.
But it's just
Yeah,
fun.
totally.
It's just fun to show what you can do in a barrel without getting you
Right.
drunk.
Yeah.
Right. And to me, when you take like a fest beer, which is very malt forward, bready, and you put it in a bourbon barrel, like the bourbon just comes all the way through. And so we ended up making like cocktail drinks so that we made like an old fashioned with it. Oh yeah. And it worked. Like it really worked. And so we like doing that kind of stuff. I think we've done a barley wine, did that last year. We've done an old ale. This year will be a stout in I'll think of it.
This is what you
I already
Podcast's
have
over.
like 3 plans to come back here with different friends based on the things
This
that you
was my
said are
plan.
coming
Yeah,
and
it's
when.
my plan.
I'm
Just
like,
dropping little
okay.
seeds, you know.
Yeah, I do love, like, I think my favorite thing is Anderson Valley has a wild turkey barrel aged stout. You're like, oh yeah, what's this, 12%? Like, no, it's 4.6%. Deal with it. And it's
Right
so
up
good.
my alley, man.
It's like, yeah, exactly. You could barrel age something and still have it be like you get all that flavor, but you don't get the alcohol.
Yeah.
And it's like so cool.
The winery that I work for, so Kevin Luther, he's the winemaker, and his dad was a furniture maker, his dad and brother. So it's like family business and furniture making. So they age wines in very like non-traditional woods, which I think is so cool. They kind of go outside of like oak.
Like what kind of
and,
woods?
I mean, even putting like mesquite or like
Oh.
cedar and stuff like that, like stuff that you don't really see. And I think it's really interesting. It's very California. It's very natural, but also like, just a lot of, I don't know,
They
intrigue
just use
in the
chips
flavors.
and things like that. I mean, they'll make
A
cedar
combination.
barrels, right?
Yeah, so I think it's like almost like there's
Cedar
like,
barrel would leak like nobody's business.
Yeah.
You'd be filling it and just keep leaking all out.
They kind of put these like it's like a spiralized wood sort of.
Oh,
in,
yeah, little
or
spirals.
of like cedar or mesquite, and I think it's cool to just kind of think outside of the box with some of that stuff and just. I don't know. It keeps it really interesting to me.
I think it's really cool. I've never
Yeah.
heard of anybody doing that.
Yeah. Voluptuary wine, Lucid wines. They sell them at the co-op. But
All
yeah,
right.
they're cool.
Yeah, that sounds like something I need to try.
That's just wine trying to keep up with beer and being interesting.
Yeah,
I know.
We're
Sorry to
ahead of
plug
them.
the whole-
We're ahead of them.
All a fad.
Yeah. I can see the ways these things are interrelated though. So
Totally.
it's so fun
Yeah.
for me to have this conversation because I'm like, oh, I can just even see those relationships and see like what innovation is pushing people toward and and I don't know, what are some of the popular ways people are like, keeping things interesting for our consumers and keeping things kind of like fresh and new and like still really appealing. So this is, I don't know, it's an exciting time I think as far as like beer and wine goes. And I think for me, one of the biggest lessons I feel like I've learned is to like drink the rainbow, so to speak.
Yes.
Is that it's
Perfect
not
phrase.
about like finding just like, oh, I know I like lager and that's all I drink, or I know I like IPA and that's all I drink, or that mom who wants like a Behringer Chardonnay every night. To me, it's like that's so sad. Just
You're missing
break
out.
There's so much in the
Yes.
world to
There's so much
experience.
complexity in the flavors and of all of that. Just to take advantage of the variety. And it's okay if you don't know who you are within the scheme of beer or wine. Just enjoy the wide world that's out there.
You can always go back to your favorite when
Yeah.
you get home.
Yes,
Right?
very
I mean, your
much.
fridge can be full of whatever you want, but when you go out and explore,
Yeah,
right?
have fun.
Yeah, and there is a serious convergence going on. It's been going on probably the last 10 years, with the barrel aged beers, Belgian beers, are very similar in characteristic to wines.
Yes.
Right.
And so there is this convergence, and now you see wine barrels being used in it. And it's cool because you're the wine drinkers that wouldn't try beer. Now you have something for them to try. You have the little gateway to bring them in with you and say, hey, come on, I got some, try this. And they don't always like it. But you got options for them now versus before when it was pale ale, stout, amber ale, porter, Pilsner. There wasn't anything for them.
Well, and I think it's really hard the other direction too. To me, I think that beer is really like the people's drink, and people tend to know more what they want with beer and feel a little more comfortable. There's always been a lack of pretension, I think, around beer. And I think that wine suffers sometimes from that feeling of like, oh, I better know something, exclusive. And I better know my flavors and my pairings and, this kind of stuff. And I really like breaking out of that to just be like, it doesn't matter. Also, anybody that knows anything about wine, there are no hard and fast rules. Just stuff is made to seem like there's so much more rigidity around it than there actually is. And it's like, no, the joy is in discovery and experimentation. Same for you. Like even in making beer, it's like same as a drinker. It's like, you want to just experiment and learn and have a sense of what you want. Yeah, experience and like enjoy these experiences, and also enjoy that like alcohol is meant to bring, friends and family together and like be.
It's 6.5 ounces of your life, right? I mean, you're not giving that much away. That's why I picked it up. Yeah.
And like wine's even smaller if you get a taster. Taking flight. It's like an ounce and a half. Yeah. I remember. I will never forget the time I went wine tasting with a friend who's really into wine. He's like, hey, I just moved to this place. Come out. They do a lot of good wine. It's like the Livermore area. We went to like 6 wineries.
Wednesday.
And I was like, I'll go. I'm not really a wine guy.
Yeah.
And we were doing tastings, and like, sommeliers would come up like, oh, what do you think of that wine? What are you getting out of that? And I would tell them like, oh, that's exactly what's in our tasting notes. Are you kind of a connoisseur? I'm like, I actually hate wine, but I know the terminology, and my palate's pretty good. But yeah. Thank you. And it's like so rude of me. And that was like a young me. I just got a memory on it. It's 9 years ago today.
Well, and I think that's the thing in wine too. Sometimes when because there's pretension, people want to subvert the pretension by sometimes being rude. And and I get it. And honestly, when I'm hosting wine tastings and anybody tells me they don't like a particular wine, I always say, no skin off my grapes.
Yeah,
I don't give a
cares.
shit. You know what I mean? I want to introduce you to a variety of flavors. You're trying, 5 different wines today, or maybe 14 different wines today. And I just, I hope that you find something you do like, and we're having fun here and experimenting. Yeah. But when you don't like something, I'm like, that's okay too. It's not a personal affront to me.
Yeah, no, you didn't make it.
No, I did. I surely didn't make it.
Yeah, and the worst part is like I got into this podcast. One of the things I wanted to get out of this podcast when I started it was getting back to that thing where I like really broke down beers and like what was in them, because I used to be really good at like giving tasting notes.
Sure.
And then I kind of just like, I'm drinking beer and like it's just a fun thing I do while I'm doing other things. Like I want to get back to that, and I'm like, wait, you were kind of a dick when you were doing that. And so I haven't, I've like actively like,
you don't really do it. You don't really do it. You're supposed to be fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
Okay, because this is another question I have too. So, with wine, people are like, when I'm hosting, they say, okay, like, what do I do to like taste it? Well, it's like, first of all, you just got to drink it. It's fine. It doesn't matter whether you're drinking it from the bottle or a glass. I mean, obviously there's better ways to enjoy like the variety of flavors and stuff like that. And I can give specific recommendations. With beer, there's none of that. With beer, it's like the assumption is you're going to be served it in a pint or a flight, and that you're just going to drink it and then see what it tastes like. So I think that it kind of keeps it in like a very chill space. But can you guys tell me too, is there anything with beer? Like does aeration matter? Should I be tasting it in my mouth?
I mean, there's glassware specific to different beers to get different smells and things like that. So there's some nuance to beer like that.
For sure.
That's cool.
But I don't think it's taken quite as seriously by most.
Yeah, you'll be viewed as like a real jerk if you're like, oh, please don't turn to me this way. I remember I went to a Legend beer bar, and they served me Delirium Tremens Christmas. So it's a Delirium Noel in a frozen glass.
Oh, God.
And I was like, you're a beer bar. You can't do this to me. And I'm drinking it. I'm like, I can't taste anything in this. So I just sat
over there for a half an hour.
I just sat there like talking to my friends with my hands wrapped around this glass to warm it up. So like, I know I'm not getting any of the dark cherry and the chocolate and all the stuff that's in here.
Because you just
I
froze
know,
all your taste
I know
buds.
you got rid of everything that I would love about this beer. And I know that, but there's probably 30 people here that don't know that.
You just had like a
and
subs
there's like, I just
card.
paid $20 for a beer I didn't like.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you need to be, like, there's certain things you can do.
Right.
But do you need to do them? One of the things you need to do, not freeze your glasses.
No.
If you're listening this far into a 153rd episode of a beer podcast,
If you're serving Coors Light and Bud, go ahead and freeze them.
yeah,
Anything else, don't freeze them.
Yeah.
Like, and
Get
'cause
your Frosty
it kills
Steiner
hops.
out.
Totally. It
even
kills everything.
hops.
It's just it
That's
completely neutralizes your taste buds because
Yeah.
they're so cold they get frozen, just like other parts of your body. Right?
Yeah.
They
So if
just
you have a
can't handle it.
shit beer,
freeze
Go
it.
for
fine,
it.
no
It's all
problem.
Cold as possible.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
if you're drinking a rice beer, fine, go for it.
Yeah.
Because you know,
Live
you
your
see
life.
some people have like steins they keep in their freezer.
Yeah, and they're
Like,
wrong.
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah. Okay, that's good to know.
That's the whole way of
I'd
doing
love
it.
to know that because similarly, like for wine, there's this thing too with like apparently in general we drink our red wines too cold and we drink our we drink our white wines too cold and our red wines too warm.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm kind of empowered now with the knowledge of like, let me put my white wine or my red wine in the refrigerator.
For a
even
minute.
if it's not open.
Right.
And then maybe take it out 30, 60 minutes before I have people over,
Right.
open it up, and just
Same
let
thing.
it kind of get not even to room temperature, but the lightest chill. You know, I think
Yeah.
there's a bit of nuance there that does impact, I think, like the user experience that's helpful to know about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to get to like 55 degrees would be an ideal for a darker beer.
Okay.
Or a more robust style, Belgian stout. You want to get a little bit warmer.
You can actually taste them at that temperature.
Yeah,
You know,
Okay,
you can get
I-
flavors that you won't get at 35 degrees.
yeah.
And that's something that I feel like Bon Lair is really good about.
Yes.
And not to plug
Yeah.
another place, but
We already
I
talked
know
about
that they are really conscientious of like,
We
you
need
know,
to
kind of
name at least
serving
two.
things at the correct
Who else?
temperature. Yeah. No, I'm already sold on Red Bus Brewing and I'm already going to be back here, you know,
Thank
for
you.
a
That
few
means a lot.
weekends in
Yeah.
the next couple months. So
It's a hidden gem.
Yeah, no,
It is, you know, people come in from Folsom all the time. I never knew about this place.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, it's kind of fun now.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm
we
already. I
revel
can't-
in it.
I can't wait to tell my Folsom friends that I've discovered maybe something that
Yeah, it's
they
like the
haven't
new band.
discovered. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right?
I'm like,
The-
I knew about them first.
The wine thing is funny. So I kind of sum it up and say, you know, if you're drinking wine with some people that you think know wine,
Yeah.
right? You'll pour your glass and you'll smell it
Yeah.
and you'll do all this stuff to try and fit in. If you did that with a beer in a beer bar, people would laugh at you.
Yeah, you're an asshole.
know.
Right? And that's the difference, right?
I know. I felt that way too. Where it's funny. I'm like, nobody's asked me to, but I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like
Yeah.
deeply sniffing my beers.
I
And
have
I
a
think it's because
good-
I'm used to wine right now.
I have a good wine tasting story. It's
Mm-hmm.
pretty funny. Well, number one, I had to learn how to make wine because of owning the homebrew shops.
Yeah.
Right.
you do everything.
It's not something I knew that I had to get into. And the first couple of years, I'm like, God, I hate these winemakers because they would challenge me on everything. Right.
Yeah.
So I had to teach myself and started making wine. And actually, the only competition I've ever entered for beer or wine ever was the State Fair wine competition in 2013 or 14. I entered a Barbera.
Okay.
No, it wasn't Barbera.
Oh, never mind.
Tempranillo.
Okay.
Tempranillo. Entered Tempranillo, and I won double gold best in show with my Tempranillo.
Oh my
And so
god!
it's so funny. I was at home with my wife, and I had been teaching wine classes for like 2 or 3 years before I won. And she goes, "Oh, I guess you're qualified to teach a class now." So, but anyway, we went wine tasting with another couple we knew a little bit, and 2 others in a limousine one time down in Napa, and we ended up in this little teeny estate winery up by Calistoga. Can't remember what it was called. And we got there, and it was like our middle of the day stop, but it was the one we really all wanted to go to,
Yeah.
and we had a tour and everything. So we get there, we have some a flight or whatever, and then we go on the tour, and the tour was hosted by this like 25-year-old New Yorker whose parents had bought the winery with tech money. And he
Classic
was
story.
just
Right.
He's just a complete asshole, right? So we're cruising around, and we get out to the back where they're fermenting the wines outside, actually,
Yeah.
and the fermenters were outside. And he starts going on and on about how making wine is so difficult as compared to making beer, because grapes are grown in the earth and they're subject to weather and all these different changing conditions. And I at this point, I'd had enough. Right. So I popped my hand in there and my wife's looking at me like, oh God,
Please don't do this.
what are you doing?
Just like, babe.
And, none of the other couples knew,
Deep breaths.
right? And he goes, yeah. And I'm like, excuse me, but you have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I go, wine's grown in the ground, subject to nature? Of course it is. But where do you think hops are grown and malt is grown? And I said, not that I'm a huge proponent of Budweiser per se, right? But that beer is made in 6 different locations in the United States with ingredients that are sourced from all over the place. And as a winery, if your wine changes year to year, it's just a different vintage.
Yes.
Right?
It's acceptable.
If your beer changes day to day at Budweiser, you get fired.
Yeah.
Right? And it has to be made in 6 different locations and taste the same. Like they fly beer in every day or every week and
never
taste it.
thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Because
said
with beer, you do expect consistency with the brand.
No
that
matter
you're
where you're at.
purchasing.
If you're
That's
traveling,
so
it better taste the
true.
same where you live as where you're traveling to.
yeah, it's like McDonald's, right? You want your quarter pounder to stay
Yes.
taste the same at every single McDonald's, right?
With
Budweiser's
wine-
the same.
Right. With wine, you can say,
Oh, our
this-
2018 is fabulous,
Exactly.
but
or
our 2019 is not as
This
good.
vintage is showing really well right now.
Right.
The rain was a
Which
little
might
weird.
even mean micro seasons, which might even not even mean 2018. It might
Right.
mean even 1 month in 2018 or
But
something like that. Yeah.
go into a brewery sometime and
Yeah.
crack open a bag of pellets, hops, Simcoe or Citra, that's from 2018 and from one supplier, and then pick up some 2019 that's from another supplier. Hey, it may have rained. As a matter of fact, I know it rained differently in that crop year versus the other. But as a brewer, maybe not here because, our Jetronic needs to taste the same in our Planet Caravan. At Budweiser, that's what they hang their hat on. Like that,
Yeah.
you buy a 12-pack of Bud, no matter where you're at, it tastes the same. You know what you're getting.
When you're in like a multinational company too, there's different expectations of you.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, you want consistency. I mean, even when you travel internationally, sometimes when you see that there's McDonald's or there's Pizza Hut,
I don't see if
and
it
you
tastes
kind
the
of
same.
think, totally, you're like, oh my God, thank God. Sometimes, and just to know that you're getting something that's like familiar to you. There's a base standard. But it's kind of a different thing to be evaluated on altogether. Because I feel like hopefully people aren't expecting that from like local breweries.
No, I don't think they are. But I was just trying to
Yeah.
make the point that, don't sit up there and
Yes,
talk
and
about
say,
what
like,
an
it's
art
easy.
winemaking is.
Right.
When making beer is so much harder.
No.
There's way more ingredients involved.
Yeah.
You make it over and over all the time. You make it once a year
Yeah.
with wine, and you are judged by how consistent you make it. Wine, our 2017 is fantastic. Our 2019, it's only $10 a bottle. Here you go.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, and there's an art to blending wine. I think that's where the real
Definitely.
art is in
Yeah.
wine, is blending wine. A lot of people can make wine. Blending is the art.
It's the same thing as
Totally.
with sours. Like if you have a great blender,
That's correct.
oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so similar to winemaking.
And that's
And
why
that's-
that's why Cascade charges $30 a bottle.
And that's similar to cooking, where like you have like a saucier. It makes me think of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I just think it's funny. I mean, wine,
is. It is
wine
really
has
funny.
this
There's a
artsy
flexibility.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That brewers are more blue collar and they're not as creative. And
Right.
it
And
couldn't
there's-
be less true.
There's freedom of experimentation in wine in certain ways that maybe there isn't as much in beer, where people are expecting something really specific based on like the mainstream brand that they buy, and it's like, no, we're kind of offering you something different, a little bit more interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah. And are people willing to like, put up with something more interesting? Yeah. I hope people are.
I
Yeah.
think so.
I'm just like, that is the spice of life.
Variety.
You know?
Learned it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God, I love beer so much. It's
Yeah,
the
no,
worst.
it's fun to talk about this with you guys. It's fun to have some of my questions answered too, because I don't know, you can just feel silly. I think people feel silly sometimes, especially in drinking alcohol, where it's a place where you want to be social, and so like you want to be cool, And I remember being 21, which is a long time ago now, and only knowing maybe 2 things to order from a bar, and and
Yeah.
you're just like, it's very
Long Island,
intimidating.
please. What do you know?
I would always get a lemon drop, and I'm like,
Okay.
what the hell? It's
you
the
knew what it was.
sugariest. Exactly. I knew what it was. That's the only thing. I knew I like citrus, and just like I could have a citrus alcohol.
You were
type of
walking in and go, hey, give me a
experience.
rusty nail. So you just have no idea what it was.
No idea. I knew one order, and it was lemon drop. And if people didn't know how to make that, I'd be like absolutely terrified.
That's an interesting topic though, and it applies to tap rooms. And I'll be honest with you,
Yeah.
because I don't get around a lot of breweries like I used to. I just don't have the time, and I honestly I just don't drink as much beer as I used to.
Sure.
But and not even really locally, but there are a lot of places I would go, and I mean I've been through the American Brewers Guild. I own a brewery, brewed thousands of beers. I would feel uncomfortable in some of these tap rooms because of the way their vibe.
Yeah.
You should be happy to be here, and. Yeah, you're going to ask me a question about this beer? Just order it. It was really weird. And
it's so unbecoming too. And I feel like it's a cheap ploy to make a few extra bucks. You know what I mean? I think that of course with pretension.
How do you make extra money that way though? I mean,
I think that's the thing. You probably don't speak to people as well, but you speak to fewer people that are willing to pay more.
Yeah, and
I guess that's
we're
the
really
trade-off.
Cool and
exactly.
you should be happy to be
There's
here
like a
kind of thing.
you could buy us on CD, but why wouldn't you buy it on vinyl?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There you go. It's exactly the same.
Wait up, Ben. I'm a huge fan of vinyl.
I mean, no, it's the same. Well,
too,
yeah.
Okay.
That's
Yes.
fine.
Yes.
But also, you can go up to this person and I can get $25 out of this person as opposed to 12.
Exactly.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Right. It's a phenomenon I saw as the brewery scene really started to grow around here, and it was one of the things that when we opened, I made sure that our bar staff was ultimately approachable.
Yeah.
And that we never made somebody feel uncomfortable.
That's everything.
Well, it is because everybody's different.
Yeah.
And if you speak down to them when they're trying to order something, they're not going to come back.
No.
Like that place is stuffy. Those people are assholes. I don't want to deal with them. And it's like, so we're not always great. We'll slip up once in a while, but
Sure.
Right. You can't
we
please everybody.
really try and keep the attitude down and just treat everybody like, hey man, welcome in.
Yes.
It's more than what can we do for you, but we're approachable here. Ask us anything about what's up here. There's no judgment.
Well, and that's how I felt. I gave a few ideas
To
about
John.
to John.
Yeah.
Here's what I like, and he immediately was like, "Great, here's 4
what
different
he does.
selections for you." And just kind of here's my thoughts on each of them, and here's the order of operations for this thing. And it was just immediately somebody who's ready to hold my hand, who's excited to hold my hand.
And
through
if
this
you don't need your
experience.
hand held, we'll let you
Yeah.
go on your way.
Bam.
But the thing is that I also don't like describing the flavors to people before we put it in front of you, because if you don't taste those, are you a failure?
Yeah.
I feel that way about wine as well. That's actually a similarity where I'm kind of starting
taste
to
it.
realize that sometimes giving people a bunch of tasting notes can be really intimidating and make them feel a sense of failure
they don't
if
know
they
what they're
don't.
doing. Right. If they don't get it.
Exactly. So to be I don't know, now I'm starting to say hey, here's some different tasting notes, but also whatever you taste is valid. Let me know what your tasting notes are, or just kind of just honoring the expertise of everybody, that we all have something valuable to contribute to this conversation about booze and how it's treated. And
Right.
you know,
and I mean,
how we're enjoying
honeydew
it.
man here. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
he's going to taste what he tastes,
Yeah.
right? I mean, and you're going to
Everybody's
taste what you
palate's
taste.
Yeah, totally.
So what's the point?
Yeah, right.
I just think you're better off with less information and just saying, here,
Yeah.
do you like this liquid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you do, sure, we'll pour you one. If
Yeah.
you don't, here's another one.
Yep.
It's not about the rest of the stuff.
I told John sours and lagers, and he said, "Here you
Sure.
go."
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's really, really good at
He
that.
was awesome.
Yeah. I do really love the thing about Red Bus is it's approachable and kind of upscale, It's
Yeah.
an avant-garde.
Upscale.
Good stuff.
Avant-garde brewing.
Oh, boy.
We're gonna get a little bit weird. I don't know how you feel about these spots, but I feel like you're a really happy middle between Solid Ground, which is Deschutes' head brewer and a winery expert,
Sure.
making just these weird experimental beers, and then this killer, really good classic
Yeah.
stuff. I feel like you and them have a lot of kindred spirit.
Yeah.
And then American River, where they just made classic beers really well.
Yeah. Yeah. I
mean,
take
they
that
did,
as a compliment.
They did
All that.
fail, but that was only because they wouldn't keep up with trends.
There was nothing wrong with
Dave
their beers.
refused,
Yeah.
steadfastly. I don't care what the data shows. I'm not going to meet the trends, and also I'm going to sell beer for $4. So that was his problem.
Yeah.
It was really the complete lack of willingness to capitulate.
There was
to
nothing wrong with the
demand.
beer.
Oh,
Yeah.
delicious beers! I miss them every day.
And a great guy.
Great guy. I
I
wish
believe that.
people.
And that's
and they had a
something
discount card. You could buy a discount card. You're you got a pint if you bought it.
The old beerman's
for
card, thing, yeah.
$2.50. $2.50 for a pint.
Yeah.
If you just bought the discount card,
Hey.
it was good for 30 beers.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
They really wanted to make beer accessible to people, but it was just not cost effective.
Yeah, I think it was $50 for 20 beers on
Yeah,
the cart.
it was absurd.
Too good.
Right? I think
It was
that's
such a
what
good
it was.
deal. Yeah,
Because Beerman's
and then
used
they
to
would
do
give
the
me
same
free
thing
ones.
back
So I'm
up
not
there.
saying anything. Now it's too late, but like they would smuggle me like half used cars.
Yeah, we found this on the floor last night. You know, it's a little sticky still, but you can have it.
Because I was there opening day, so like
Yeah.
I think I can't name how many days I was there at like 11 p.m. when they close at 9. You know,
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I really appreciate that, and I think that's a good analogy. I would hang my hat on that.
Yeah, I
because
think it's-
Solid Ground, if you say we're kind of a hidden gem, I
Solid
think the majority of Sacramento has no idea
Yeah, they're-
what's going on.
Yeah,
up
and it's
there.
just it's a former Deschutes head brewer.
Yeah, and Kate,
So
I've-
you're getting like classic styles, like the most knowledgeable brewer you could possibly
I would
have.
say
to
him
make
and
sure you're
Peter Hoey are
consistent.
probably the guys in
Oh, yeah.
Sacramento.
Where is that?
It's in Diamond Springs.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was going to ask
And
you.
it's not on fire. It's north of there.
Okay,
so-
yeah. So it's like Red Bus, obviously a place we visit, we love. And then you're saying Solid Ground.
I
And then,
recommend
yeah,
a
what are
Solid
your
Ground.
recommendations?
Well, I mean, I just want to gush about Solid Ground a little more.
Yeah,
because
I mean,
Yeah,
they're
please
so
do.
overlooked.
Yeah, so Casey, it's Casey and Scott. Casey Sarah. I don't know Scott's last name, but
It's a weird one.
Write these
yeah.
down.
But Casey, when he moved here, he started showing up at the Brewmeister. Okay, I was still working in the Brewmeister back then, and the questions he would ask him, what he was looking for, I'm like, hey, where are you from? Like, not geographically, but where have you worked? And then I got out of him, Gordon Pierce, Deschutes. Yeah, he went to the London Theriot School of Brewing and Distilling. Like, the guy is like awesome. So I used to have this 50-gallon brew system on a trailer. Casey would come down and teach classes on it for me. So I've known him for a long time. And the lager yeast that we made the Hellas with is from there.
Nice.
So I hit them up as often as possible. But their beers are so incredible and classic styles.
Yeah, and then they get so weird with them.
They do with the blending of the wines and,
Yeah.
and the stuff and that. So I love those
It took
guys.
two experts and
Yeah.
put them together.
Yeah.
Beer expert, wine expert.
Yeah.
Let's get these barrels going.
Yeah, and really good guys. I mean, it's a fun place. And
I run into them randomly all the time. They're just down here, like just getting beers from wherever.
Yeah. Casey will come in here. They're friends with the Fort Rock folks. They spend a lot of time there. It's a lot of fun. But the Solid Ground guys are incredible.
I don't even know how you promote them. That's the only problem.
They're
Like,
busy now, though.
I know.
I've been up to there. Busy.
good
Yeah.
because their food's great.
Yeah, the food's
'Cause
good.
I think if you're gonna focus on that, you're gonna focus on food.
Yeah.
And like same with you, with your like we're gonna do food. We're not gonna like here's a pepperoni pizza.
Well, that's
Get
the
out of
funny
my
part, right?
face.
I wanted to do frozen crust because I just wanted to have food. And John and my brewer Kel, were like,
This is our brand.
absolutely not.
This is
What
our
do you-
brand.
What's
You
your
can't-
problem,
If
man?
you cut corners here, what are we doing in the brewery?
Yeah, you can't match our beer with frozen pizza crust. And so that's the other funny thing is Kellen.
You're like my one chance to get out on low cost in
I
no
was
time.
just trying to reduce the amount of work.
They're like, nope.
So
Not
Kellen Owen, who's my brewer, he worked in the homebrew shop for a long time. He used to be the head brewer at Linden Street in Oakland.
Okay. Yeah.
And he had his own brand for a while, but he went to culinary school before he became a brewer. So when we had the pizza thing, he came up with the dough recipe. He helped with the pizza. John used to open Red Robin's.
Okay.
So he has restaurant experience. So we had this team. So all I did was say, hey guys, what do I have to buy? Go.
Nice. Perfect. Yeah.
So-
Trust your staff.
So you were asking other breweries, like my favorites?
Yeah.
God, I hate to do this because it would, it seems like I'm not including other people. But
Right.
solid
Just know
Ground.
that this list is limited and it's not.
Yeah, some of it has to do with people I like and brands I like and this and that. But Solid Ground, I think, for the kind of beers that I like, Czech Pilsner, lager styles.
Yeah.
Really, there's nobody in Sacramento that does them as well as them, and nobody knows about them. So people go to Solid Ground.
Yeah.
Cool.
We come here and I'll put you in the bus and I'll drive you to Solid Ground. It's fine. I have always admired Bike Dog
Yes.
and their branding. Their beers are good too, but their branding is so on point and so simple, and I just love it. The first time I saw it, I'm like, that is brilliant. Love it.
Brand new's clean. Beers are clean.
Yeah. Urban Roots obviously does a terrific job. I mean, Monk Cellar, Andy and I grew up homebrewing together. I think he's done a terrific job. Zach, Fraser Out Slice. I mean, what can you say about Zach that hasn't already been said?
Yeah, Madman.
Yeah, Auburn Ale House, their Gold Country Pilsner is probably my favorite beer in the area.
Oh, so good.
Just love that beer.
We should hang out more.
Yeah,
These are all my places.
yeah, Gallons. I love
If you
I
ask
love
me for
Loomis
the list,
Basin
these are the
because
same ones. Oh yeah.
yeah, Kenny and Jimmy, just awesome people and great beer.
I'm
Classic.
writing all of this down.
I can hang out with Kenny for hours.
Yeah, they're just fun people, and
he's a
again, they
joy.
were huge supporters of mine when I had the homebrew shop, and so I'm sure there's others, but those are when I do get out, which isn't very often. That's the kind of places I would go.
That's where you would go.
That's where I would go. Yeah,
Yeah.
really like King Kong.
Oh yeah, underrated.
Yeah, underrated. People don't know about it.
Overlooked, yeah.
I've liked going there.
I was-
Flatland. I mean, that's
Truly,
relevant.
truly
So,
the Red Bus of Sacramento proper.
yeah, yeah, there you go. Yeah, Flatland. I think Andrew, being out in Elk Grove, kind of doesn't get the attention he deserves. Flatland. The Under the Bus band is playing there next Friday. By the way,
Oh, is
just
that what
in
you call
case
the band? I was
yeah.
going to ask.
Under the Bus. Yeah,
That's in Elk Grove?
it's in Elk
Yeah.
Grove. Terrific.
Yeah, I have friends in Elk Grove.
So, yeah, I mean, I can go on and on about
Yeah.
breweries.
It's
Crooked
like-
Lane. I mean,
Crooked Lane,
it's-
great.
yeah, and it's awesome.
Ben loves, I know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you did the comedy show up there,
Yeah.
and Teresa. I mean, they're just such great people.
Yeah,
And
it's so fun.
yeah,
I love them so much.
and Kolsch. Anybody can make
Oh
good
my
Kolsch,
God.
right?
I have one in my fridge right now. And it just keeps calling me. I'm like, no, you'll wait.
Yeah, I mean they do a great job. So
Yeah. Shahera, we've been here. Look, this
Yeah.
conversation flew by.
yeah, how long have we been going?
Longer than
Oh,
usual,
minute.
I'll
Oh.
say. So we should probably get out of here. But Shahera, you have a 5th anniversary show.
Yes.
When is it? It probably already passed.
You know
But
what?
You can come see
So-
the 5th anniversary plus 1 month.
Yeah, so this year we are all season long celebrating the 5th anniversary of the Moving Van Show, a stand-up comedy popping up around Sacramento. You can follow us on any social media at Moving Van Show. On Facebook at The Moving Van Show, even on Venmo at Moving Van Show. But we always have a lineup of just some of the best Sacramento comedians, have to offer. It's very casual, very chill. It's a place that you can bring your sparkling water, etc., your dog, your weed, whatever your thing is, and just have a good time in the park with us. So follow us on any social media at Moving Van Show. But the next show is going to be September 25th at 8 p.m.
Do you know the location on that yet?
The location will be revealed via social media.
Oh.
So you can follow us
That
on
was a
Twitter and
tease.
That's
Instagram
called
or
a tease.
Facebook.
I'm trying to get the scoop.
Yeah.
I'm always big. You'd be surprised how many scoops I get on this podcast.
Not
I'm trying to
happening,
get
man.
it.
It's not
like,
happening.
Nope, not for you, sir.
It'll be outdoors in Sacramento. So get your friends to come. I mean, there's not a lot of live shows that are happening right now still and yet. And so, if you're the kind of person that does want to be just like reconnected to community, it's a great place to do that. I also co-host and produce the other mic through the Lavender Library. It's kind of like an LGBTQ stand-up comedy open mic that's at Southside Park. The next one is August 27th. I don't think this podcast will be
Well,
out
what's
yet.
the one after that?
And the one after that is going to be just generally on a Thursday at Sac Lace at Instagram. You can find out the details.
Did it to you again, man.
Hey, I just want to make sure people that are listening can at least find the information later.
Catching the end of this podcast, baby. But no, and I'm Shahera Hyatt, so you can follow me anywhere on social media or at Shaherazad on Instagram and Twitter.
How do you spell Scheherazade?
It's ShaherazAd.
Is it?
That's
is.
easy.
Yeah, it's
easy.
super easy, super casual. I know you're writing it down.
It autofills once you get
And
I
I'm
thought Eric with a K was hard.
SHAH. Like, we got you. We know what you're looking for.
And if you're a beer drinker and you're here, I'm sure we'll be collaborating with Red Bus to come do a pop-up out
Oh
in
man, we're ready. I got to show you this
because-
back room. Like it's ready
Yeah.
for you guys.
Yeah, we're already ready to collaborate. So you got to come out here and drink some of these good beers I've had today and see some comedy. It'll be too good.
Yeah, let's just hope for a smoky October, I'll say. But also not.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not too
exactly.
smoky for us to come out and enjoy a show.
Like a smoke, but nobody's affected except for the air quality.
Yeah, just a casual thing.
Yeah, just a casual, smoky atmosphere.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say. And then
Well, this
Eric-
has been fun, you guys.
Yeah, Eric Schmidt, where can people
been
find out
so
more about
fun.
you at Red Bus Brewing?
Redbusbrew.com and new website launching in probably 10 days.
So it's already new. Go check it out. Look at it.
Oh, yeah,
Go
that's
back
right.
in time and
Never
look
mind.
at it
Yeah,
and be
yeah,
like, oh, that's what it looked like before. Now it looks like this now.
Yeah, I got to do the math, but 10 days minus the production. Yeah, whatever. Facebook, Instagram, at Red Bus Brew, pound Red Bus Brew. Combi Pizza Company is the name of our pizza company. Yeah, come see us.
Yeah.
Tell us how you heard about us. Yeah, I don't know. What
The
else?
beers are excellent. I couldn't more highly recommend the selection I've tried
Yeah.
today.
Thank
so,
you.
Mention
yeah,
Barley to me and get
truly.
$0 off your next order at Red Bus Brewing.
Mention Barley Me, and you know what? I bet they'll be real friendly
You're
to
like, thank you.
You know my
Who
dog's
knows
name is
what could
Barley,
happen?
right?
I did not know
Yeah,
that.
I have a black lab named Barley,
Nice.
and then I have a barnyard cat that stays here at the brewery named Hops. It's very
My-
original.
My
Cute.
brother-in-law who got me into beer, his golden retriever was named Barley.
Oh yeah, it's a great name.
Yeah.
It's a great name. It works for a brewer too.
So I was like, it's kind of an homage, I guess.
yeah, sure.
Sure. And then for Barley Me, you can find me across social media at Barley Me Pod. Check email questions, comments, concerns, guest ideas, brewery ideas to barleymepod@gmail.com or barleymepodcast@gmail.com. I have recently semi-retired my chugs for charity due to life events, meaning I can't get drunk at 5 p.m. because I'm like, I might have to drive in a minute. So, but do your own chugs for charity. You can enter to win free beer from my beer cellar. Just pick a beer, pick a charity, chug it, film it, tag me at Barley and Me Pod. Use the hashtag Chugs for charity. It's Chugs number 4 charity. Be able to win free beer. You chug a Black is Beautiful or a Pink Boots beer, get 2 entries and access to my fresh beers. I say that knowing that just ask for a beer and I'll give it to you because I have so much beer and I cannot drink it.
I will be doing this.
It's so fun. You don't have to finish the beer. You could drink I don't even care what your chug size is. It could be 3 ounces. I don't care.
You can drink half of it before you even start. Nobody
Yeah,
even know.
no, I don't care.
I can't wait
The
to
point
chug
is
for
raising
charity.
money for charities. That's the thing.
And you're welcome for that light Schwartz beer, Black is Beautiful,
I was
because
gonna
that was
say,
probably the easiest chugging
Easiest chug.
Black is Beautiful beer you had.
Oh my god!
Right?
And it was delicious.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, I
and
got-
the
I
shout
had
out
a
you gave us, like, I knew somebody's going to try this lager thing. Leave it up to Red Bus to do it. That was cool.
Yeah. I think I did the whole crowler because there was like
Oh,
what
that's
was it,
right. We didn't can
5.4?
it, so you had to chug the whole crowler. That's right.
And then Peter Hoey did a bourbon, a barrel aged one. No, did he? No, he just did an imperial stout, but it was like 10.2. He put
Right.
it in 12-ounce cans instead of 16 for me to chug.
That a boy.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm doing things. People care about what I'm doing. If they would see the numbers, like, this was a waste of time, but I don't give them my data. Let's see. I've also got my beer and basketball podcast with Phil Webster called Please Dunk Responsibly. Don't forget to slide into RGMs with players you want us to compare to beers you want us to compare to players. We'll do it. It's now the off season, so we're going to just go nuts with memories. Probably have some special guests. We've got, a few people in the beer industry or beer lovers that have played professional basketball. We'll probably talk to about their memories of doing that and all the stuff they loved about what attracted them to beer. I'm just talking out loud at this point. Also, it's Crazier in My Business, the Advice Podcast with my girlfriend Becky Lynn and Tavi. Check that out wherever you get your podcasts. It's very fun. It's the easiest edit I'll ever do. I think I said all the things that I
awesome,
had.
man. I'd love to do the basketball thing with you sometime.
Yeah?
Oh yeah, I was a Sacramento Optimus All-Star. I played a year at Chico,
Look at this guy.
and then I ran a bunch of camps for years. Cartwright's camp. So we could talk hoops.
I shot 55% from 3 my senior year.
That a boy. That's
I
really
was the
good.
original 3 and D. 'Cause I was-
Launch and go back and stand and be ready.
Oh my god, I was ready. Oh boy, I remember I was playing in Seattle when I was in middle school, and people wouldn't pass the guy I was guarding because I was just gonna steal it like every time. And then when I got to high school, I had a growth spurt, and I was like 150 pounds, but I could read. Like, you're doing a fast break, I'm blocking your
You're
shot.
Mr. Defense, huh?
Oh my god, people were just scared.
No, I'd love to talk hoops with you sometime.
I
man.
love it so much.
It's a big part of my life growing up.
Yeah, and we what's your favorite team growing up?
Sixers.
Nice. Okay, great.
Huge Dr. J guy.
We don't have a Sixers fan, so that's fine. Great. I love to talk about like I'm a Sonics guy who spent 1 year being mad at the Thunder, but then I went to a Kings game against the Thunder, and Clay Bennett showed up, and I had seats that were like 7 rows back because I had a friend that worked at Ticketmaster or for the Kings ticketing office. They give me a steep discount, and so I spent the whole game yelling at him, and so I felt like now I could be a Thunder fan because I've let the owner know what he did was garbage.
Right.
And so I'm like, now I'm a Thunder fan, but Phil's a Cavs fan, so we're both pretty tortured.
You still a Thunder fan? A Thunder fan?
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
harder now.
Hey, you know what? sticking with your team through
But
tough times.
I mean,
is
when
the
you
way
get
to
to
go.
see when you get to see Theo Maladon brick a dunk and then brick a layup and then get a steal and brick a layup, and it's just there's fun things. Basketball's fun. It's fun to watch no matter the talent level. Basketball's just a fun sport.
It is.
It is a fun sport. And it is time for Ben to get me some Taco Bell.
It's true.
Yeah, that's
Right.
true.
So this has been episode 153 of Barley and Me with Erik Schmidt from Red Bus Brewing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Great to be here, man. I had a great time.
And Shahera Hyatt.
Oh,
Thank you so
it's
much.
so fun. Thank you for having me.
It was nice to meet you, Shahera.
Yes, nice to meet you too.
And thank you so much for listening. Get home safe.